Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson, live on YouTube from the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies. All brought to you by Fanduel. It's time, Sam. Wednesday show. We're back. We've been out of rhythm here
back
on
in
the
the
Wednesday
building.
Shows.
Back in the studio.
You're
back in the state.
You're back in the state.
After
fresh
just
off
11 and a half hours driving.
That's it, huh?
It's incredibly ridiculous, stupid thing to do.
Tack on another 3.5 hours. We do that 4 times a year.
I mean, I knew that was a dumb thing to do. I've told you every time you do it, and having done it now personally, I'm like, this is ridiculous. We get at both sides of this journey, right? We get at the other end, and my wife's like, that wasn't that bad. I'm like, are you out of your mind? That's the terrible. Like, no, awful. I'm not doing that again.
Why did you choose to drive rather than fly?
Because we were bringing the dog.
Ah.
And the dog can't fly, and so the dog hasn't flown, so we had to drive in order to bring the dog with us.
You know, we have some healthy, probably unsuitable for air debates. You know, the pros and cons of having a dog versus having, say, 4 children. This feels like now driving with the 4 children.
No. You see, you can bring a dog on a plane. Now, my sister has scammed this system where if you can register the thing as like a service animal, which doesn't actually require any test or reality. Like, you can just say, it's a service dog. And as long as it's, like, reasonably behaved, you can get away with it. We've never done that. So I actually think, based off how she behaves in the car, i.e. she just goes to sleep, dog would be fine on the plane. Getting from the airport to the plane would be a major problem.
Yeah.
On the plane, she'd be fine. But getting to the plane would be an issue. So we have to drive.
Yeah. It's a lot like having the 4 kids.
A lot.
Getting them onto the plane. Once they're on the plane, you can distract them. Maybe they're fine. Anyway, we've got a monster show here today. We're going to go through. We had a choice. We could have been either positive or negative. We could have said, playoffs are starting. Every team going to the playoffs. What's their strength? You know, let's talk about the good stuff. Instead, we're going to talk about the negatives.
Instead, our bad angel won out on the shoulder.
You did. We're going to go critical flaw for every NFL playoff team. We're going to go through that early here.
I just renamed what someone else had already decided. I didn't bring it up.
Then we've got Andrew Fillipponi, the Pony. We got Pony joining the show. Right around 9:30. We've got a lot of questions for him. Pony of nipple fame.
Right, nipple fame. So we're going to ask him the occasional Tomlin question, but really it's going to be a 20-minute discussion about his nipples.
Check in on that. The Tomlin questions and a little Steelers-Ravens in-depth preview from Pony from Pittsburgh. You know, who's in the trenches there. Nobody knows Tom. Nobody's listened to more Mike Tomlin press conferences than Pony.
Can translate
Tomlinese
into us.
We could figure it all out. So we've got this monster. We got the Wednesday update. We got a lot going on here.
And I know we got a lot to get through, but I have to thank Ben Stockwell, our friend from PFF, who sent me a surprise jersey. And apparently, so it's one of those ones where you can mystery box jersey, right? You don't know what you're getting. And apparently, my mystery box gave me a Welsh Rugby jersey, Welsh Rugby Union jersey. You can apparently specify which jerseys not to have, right? So he was careful to make sure that I didn't get an England jersey and a South Africa jersey, who have been the most recent sort of Ireland rival, I guess, but neglected to specify no Wales. So here I am sitting here in a Welsh Rugby Union jersey because Ben Stockwell bought me a present, and Ben's my friend. I would never normally be seen dead in a Welsh Rugby Union jersey, but here I am, sitting in one that not only is just a Welsh jersey, but also kind of clashes with the wall. So, thanks, Ben.
Well, this has got to be embarrassing for all your...
It's not so much embarrassing. It's just,
Nobody likes the Welsh.
No, they don't. But look, the Welsh Rugby Union have fallen on hard times, and they need our support. So here I am supporting the WRU in their time of need.
So I would assume I didn't insult any of our viewers or listeners that we might have a small fraction of the Welsh who listen to us.
There's at least a person or two that I believe are Welsh rugby fans that listen to the show.
So I apologize. I like you guys.
You like them. Yeah.
I like
not the Welsh Rugby Union, but those people.
No.
Mm-hmm. There you go. See, there's one in the chat already dropping Welsh.
Oh,
Welsh Pete.
Wow. Apologies for of all the people here. I mean, that's a higher percentage than I anticipated.
Well, it's at least one out of, however many people are watching right now.
Wow. We take it all back. We appreciate you all. All right, you ready to go?
Let's go.
We're going to go team by team and talk. We got 2 minutes per team here. Critical flaw for each team.
Yeah.
And I think this pops up every year. And let me just start with this. Every team's a fraud. You're all frauds.
Oh.
Right? I mean, this is the discourse, right? This will never work in the playoffs.
Well, you can
this
say
is
that,
a weakness
and
because
only one of them will prove you wrong.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll be right. I'll be right 98% of the time, and that's the key here. You're all frauds. You're all frauds. All of your teams. You're a fake. Even if you make it to the Super Bowl and lose, you were fake the entire time.
Look at the Chiefs last year.
Look at the Chiefs. Frauds.
How fraudulent was that?
You could go
they
back.
Got
See, we
to
knew
the
this.
Super Bowl, got wrecked, and now look at them this year.
And you just say, we knew that was going to happen. Of course it was all fake. 9-0 in one-score games. Of course that was fake. So you're all frauds. So we'll start with that. Critical flaw for every team. Let's start in the AFC with the number 1 seed, Denver Broncos. I actually I had more of a challenge. This was more challenging for me.
the Broncos?
Because you would say the strength is the defense.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Even though, as you've mentioned, they've been, showing some cracks.
Leakier. Little leaky recently. But I think they're stronger. So you would normally say, the offense or the passing offense or whatever. But I think they've stepped up in big games critically. So what would you say the critical flaw is for the Broncos here?
The stripy jerseys hate Riley Moss. And they're going to flag him twice in the biggest games for like 180 yards.
Oh, it's just straight up Riley Moss.
It's just Riley Moss. It's not even because he's bad. It's just because the refs hate him. The refs are going to take one look at Riley Moss and say, nope. And they're just going to throw a 50-yard defensive pass interference flag on like 3rd and 18.
All right.
And that's it.
So
that's
Riley,
how it's going to go.
We're going to come back and we're going to revisit these. Riley Moss. That's the critical flaw.
Yeah.
It's
and again, not because Riley Moss isn't good, but because the refs hate him.
I would have said, if you asked me about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I might say the passing game, the passing offense, and the inconsistency. I think Bo Nix I think Bo has played much better. And as I said a couple weeks ago against the Packers, I don't want to say he's calibrated to, put up points when he needs to, but it does seem like if the defense isn't doing their part, they're able to put points on the board.
It still feels like that's the most fragile part, though.
It is the most.
Can they do that? Yes. Do you expect them to do that? Not really.
I would say the biggest trend so far has been they have gone through lulls, much like the Eagles, 2 and 3 quarters at a time. And there's so many games this year where they just played well in the fourth quarter. That is tough to bottle up and just go do that for a 3-game stretch.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few quarterbacks that get better when it's like the game's kind of done already. You've got 4 minutes to get 3 scores type of thing, and so the entire game just becomes hurry up and don't get sacked, right? And guys like Caleb Williams are a bit like this as well. Like when they just become, when everything is on their shoulders and they can use their athleticism and their arm and every play runs through them, I think they get better. I don't think you can do that for a whole game, let alone 3 games in a row. Where it's like Bo Nix gets better in those situations because he's athletic, he's got a big arm, he can make plays on the run, but you can't really start doing that with like 5 minutes to go in the first quarter.
And if we were going to be a little bit more specific as we wrap up the Broncos, staying on time here, I would say maybe just the pass catchers overall, right? The consistency there. Courtland Sutton's dependable. Troy Franklin's dependable every 3 weeks. They're not really using Marvin Mims down the field. Pat Bryant. Do they have enough? Evan Ingram's made some big plays. Is that enough to put together, say 3 full games all the way through the playoffs? So I'd say the pass game would be – like if one part of the Broncos didn't show up in a playoff loss, I'd say
that's the one
game.
You would expect it to be. Yeah.
Let's go. Number 2 seed in the AFC is the New England Patriots. Their critical flaw.
Right, we'll get to it later, but maybe if depending on how the Stefon Diggs stuff pans out, they might not have a receiving core that's capable of doing it.
Yeah. Now, I would say there's a lot of discourse out there. Drake Maye, Matthew Stafford, MVP, and this and that. Drake Maye, for all that we spoke about last year, where he was working with a bottom 3 offensive line, bottom 3 group of pass catchers, and you use that as like an excuse, right? It's like, he's a good player, looks like a good player, showing a lot of flashes, but what can he do with this group? This year, in recent weeks, he's coming off this incredible game against the Jets, backup left tackle, backup left guard, no Mac Hollins. They have dealt with some injuries on the offensive side of the ball and not missed a beat. Now, Diggs, if he's gone, we'll see what happens there.
Mac Hollins already on IR.
Mac Hollins already on IR. Are they running out of pass catchers? Now, they've been sitting on Kyle Williams all year, who you love, but is that...
And look, we don't know how the Diggs thing is going to go. The Patriots put out a statement which issued support. Like, they gave the kind of usual, we're gathering information, we're aware of it, blah, blah, blah. But in the middle of that, they were like, we've spoken to Diggs, he has our support. That's pretty unusual for this type of thing. I don't know if there's signal in that, but...
And then the question
nothing's happened yet.
Does the NFL make a move, or do they let the legal
The other thing I would say for the Patriots is, and it might not necessarily be, it's not a their fault thing, but they have been playing the season on easy mode, right? Because they've just been untested. They have a cakewalk of a schedule. They've basically had 1.5 decent tests down the stretch, Buffalo and Baltimore, and it might just be that because like once you step up the difficulty multiple notches going into the playoffs, it's a jump too far for the Patriots to, you know what I mean? Like they just haven't played at that level this season. Doesn't mean they're not capable of it, but it's a really difficult thing to ask them to do, to not just step up your level one notch like everybody is going into the playoffs, but step it up maybe 2 or 3 notches because suddenly everybody is your good teams.
And if we were just looking at one side of the ball, even with the injuries, I think I trust that offense and Drake Maye, even unproven playoff Drake Maye, I trust them. I think the run game's gotten going, even though if you look at the season-long metrics, they're not there. I think I trust the offense more than the defense. So if we're just looking at a side of the ball, if Milton Williams comes back, that certainly helps, but the defense, I think, has been weaker. And in the easier schedule, I think the defense has benefited from that more than the offense, I would say. So the defense would be the other piece that I'd look at here. Did we answer that? Sure. Jacksonville Jaguars. Critical flaw for the Jags. This is a tougher one because
it really is.
Things are coming together. Again, the flow of the Jags season, and I need a little social media cleanse. Because you could find anything on there. There are people like, why isn't Trevor Lawrence mentioned in the MVP race? You could, like, we're at golden age of throwing numbers together. You can make any case. You could throw 5 or 6 numbers together, and Trevor Lawrence's numbers look just like Drake Maye's.
Yeah.
But you would never, if you've watched as much football as we have this year, say, man, they've played at the same level all year.
Right.
Now, second half of the year maybe for Lawrence, but
Sure.
Maye's been consistent and good all year. So halfway through, through the season, you would say they're winning without Trevor Lawrence playing his best football. Now he's playing his best football.
Yeah.
And the pass catchers look good. Where's the critical flaw in the Jags?
That's the thing. I honestly think the Jags right now are one of the most complete teams in the NFL and maybe one of the best based off how they've been playing with Trevor Lawrence at this level. And at that point, I don't know what their critical flaw is. They're good everywhere if he's playing at that level. So I guess based off simple sort of sample size, my default assumption would be the critical flaw would be that Trevor Lawrence doesn't play like this during that entire stretch. Like, what if Trevor Lawrence goes back to being the guy that he was for the rest of his career at the wrong time?
Yeah. So just regression to the mean, 5-year.
But that's like a complete hypothetical. It's not even like their critical flaw is Trevor Lawrence. It's their critical flaw could be Trevor Lawrence if he stops playing at this level, which is true for, a lot of players.
It's another one I would say. Other teams are more clear, but I would say that the parts of the defense, which were turnover dependent early on in the season, I think they've played fine. I don't know if they're not the same echelon as some of these other teams, so I would say maybe it's the pass rush beyond Josh Hines-Allen, who's having a great season. I think Trayvon Walker's shown a little bit. Eric Armstead's done a little bit, but just having that consistent pass rush beyond Josh Hines-Allen, which is a multi-year issue, I would say, for the Jags. I don't think it's affected the defense as much as it has in the past, but maybe that's it, just the ability to get pressure with that front four consistently enough, especially compared to some of their AFC brethren like the Broncos, like the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely don't have a pass rush as good as those teams, but I don't think it's a weakness either. I mean, this is all good.
What I'm hearing
there's
is
definitely a group of Jags fans that think we hate the Jags.
I mean, every fan base.
Liam Cohen is out here deliberately stoking that us against the world, siege mentality type of stuff. We'll never get the respect. Small market. The fact that it's this hard to find a critical flaw for the Jags heading into the postseason is an extremely good thing from the Jags' perspective.
So what I'm hearing is the Jags are your Super Bowl pick. Put it on the record.
I don't have one yet, but they're as good as anybody at the moment.
Jags making their first Super Bowl. Man, we should have done it in '99. Jags, Rams would have been great back in 2017. Would have been. All right, the 4 seed. We'll hold off on the Steelers because they could. Let's just do the Baltimore Ravens. We'll ask Pony the Steelers' critical flaw.
Okay.
What's their biggest flaw? But the Ravens, if they win, what's their critical flaw?
They haven't played good football at any point in the year.
More specifically, you've got injured Lamar Jackson. I don't care how good Tyler Huntley is as a backup. Injured, banged up, not playing his best football, Lamar Jackson. He's not the critical flaw, but him not being 100%, and more specifically the pass rush this year. They have not affected the quarterback at all, and I think it's affected the entire defense, which has shown flashes of what they've been in previous years. Like, they had a really good defense the last 2 years. They have been below average this year, start to finish.
Yeah, true. I mean, the defense, not just, it was awful earlier in the season, and then it's gone to being below average. Yeah, I think their top pressure, I can't even phrase the words to make that a sentence. The guy who leads the team in pressures on defense is Travis Jones, who's like the latest in their line of 330-pound nose tackles. Like,
right.
He's not supposed to be leading the team in pressures, and if he is, you probably aren't getting much pressure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That was an easier one. Defense overall, but pass rush specifically for the Ravens. We'll talk Steelers with Pony here in a little bit. Ask their critical flaw. Houston Texans are the 5 seed. What's their critical flaw?
I still think it's the offensive line. It's better than it's been. They've found ways around it, and they've done a good job of patching over the problems, but I still think against the best teams, that offensive line is a problem.
It's still below average in both PFF's pass blocking grade and PFF's run blocking grade.
Yeah.
So even with improvement, and there were definitely, and then when we talk about improvement, how much, it's one of the toughest things about football analysis is how much does improvement matter, or is it relevant to who you've played and whether or not you've been challenged?
Just how real is it?
Yes, like you've made the point throughout the season, when they've gone, like when they went up against the Niners midseason, it was like they were fine, right? They had no problem against that pass rush. But when they played the Seahawks, they had 15 drives, couldn't make a first down. So that's the question. When you run into the Broncos again, when you run into other,
there's a lot of good pass rushes in the playoffs, and they're going to have to get through them.
I think that's fair. When we were going to do this show from a positive sense, and we said, what are the strongest units or the strengths? You'd say, the Texans' defense is right there.
Yeah.
So the Texans' defense might be the strongest individual side of the ball in all of the playoffs, but the offensive line, pass pro generally, I would say, critical flaw makes sense. Buffalo Bills, the 6th seed right now. What's their critical flaw? How many turnovers did they have last week in their loss?
I still think it's that wide receiver issue.
Yeah.
The one that Brandon Beane claims doesn't exist, and the one that for a lot of games doesn't exist, but when they play the best teams, I think shows up as a problem when Josh Allen is like, there's nowhere to go with the ball. I've got to run around for 8 seconds trying to find a play to make. And sometimes he makes it because he's Josh Allen and he's MVP caliber, and sometimes he doesn't, and he takes a 25-yard sack just trying to make miracles happen. I think those are the games where that problem shows up. Like, there's nobody out there that can beat man coverage. And if you face these good defenses, Denver, Jacksonville, Texans, they're going to play man coverage. They're going to say, I'm not scared of any of your receivers. Go and find a guy that can win.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, when you had critical 3rd and 10 and 4th and 12 the other day, and they ran that same old bubble screen, and they ran the hook and ladder.
Yeah.
The fact that that's what they're resorting to. And remember last year, they traded for the now retired Amari Cooper, and that's how they tried to, down the stretch, solve this X-receiver problem. And it worked for like a couple games. It was like, all right, Amari Cooper's helping. But it's still a problem. It's still an issue. And
it's getting worse.
Affects,
it's
it
so
affects
bad.
Allen's playing style, yeah.
The guy that they drafted and were like, no, he's our ex-wide receiver. He's like a healthy scratch most weeks, Keon Coleman now. Like, they're basically saying he's not even worth putting on the field anymore. Having been the solution to this problem, no, we're just going to draft this guy and play him at X-wide receiver, even though most people were like, that's not what he is. That doesn't feel like a fix. So, yeah, I just think that that's a weakness.
So Bills are interesting because I'd call that a weakness. You could point to their run defense, which has definitely failed them at various points, not just this year. I mean, this is a multi-year issue. Where it's not every game, but there are certain games where it's like they feel light. They feel overwhelmed at the point of attack. This has been a big chunk of the McDermott era. It doesn't always show up, but every now and again it's like, oh, you just gave up 200 and you got bullied.
So I think that's the thing, is that they have a couple of weaknesses on this team, relatively speaking, overall, and each one of them is exploitable by one or two playoff teams. Like, there's a couple of teams where their weakness at wide receiver, I don't think is a problem. And there's a couple of teams where it's quite obviously a real issue. Same thing with the run defense. It's like, against a lot of teams, that's okay. There's a couple of teams in the playoffs where that will be a problem. And the problem is now, so there's like all of your critical flaws are exploitable by at least one or two of the playoff field. And you either need to get really, really lucky and avoid all of those teams by them knocking each other out, or you actually need to find a way of not being wrecked by one of those teams.
And then in a world where it feels like defenses are fighting back over the last couple of years, this and that, they have the most, not experienced quarterback, but I would say the quarterback that you trust the most.
Yeah.
And it's Allen. And look, Allen can be a roller coaster ride, but the guy that you trust the most to take over a game in the playoffs. And they're going to be doing it as a wild card, have to win 4 games. It's going to be a fascinating playoff, potential run here for the Bills.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for the Bills because they're in narrative world. They're going to be Buffalo should win the Super Bowl this year. Nobody else is in there, and you're like, yeah, but if you actually look at it, they shouldn't. There's a bunch of teams that could beat all the other teams beaten Buffalo already.
Yeah, it's because they usually get knocked out by Kansas City or Cincinnati, and they're gone. Number 7 seeds the Los Angeles Chargers. Their critical flaw, the offensive line, as we move to the NFC. We've talked enough about the Chargers' offensive line.
I mean, they have the worst offensive line in the NFL, and that is an issue.
NFC, number 1 seed, as of right now, San Francisco 49ers. At least that's what's listed here. I don't know. I think the Seahawks are, but let's start with the Niners anyway.
They currently are, yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. Well, they have to win more, right?
I mean, the winner's going to have the number 1 seed. We're starting with the Niners. Right. What's the critical flaw for the Niners?
The defense. I mean, they just don't have talent on defense.
Yeah. Pass rush more specifically.
I just think you'd broaden it to the whole defense. There's just not enough talent on that side of the ball. And against some teams, that's okay. Against most teams, it's not.
The Niners, I would say the Texans' offense isn't horrible, but there are certain teams where you just have so much more trust for one side of the ball than the other. The Niners are absolutely one of them.
Even the Texans, you're like, they can win a high-scoring game. I don't know that the 49ers can win a low-scoring football game in the playoffs. I think they need to win a shootout. I don't think that they can, because that defense is going to give up. What is the minimum number of points you think that defense can get out of a playoff game giving up?
I mean, it depends. I mean, if they play the Eagles disappear for a half, so it depends. It depends on the matchup. But, yeah, I trust the Niners defense.
But in the other half, they're going to give up 28.
Chicago Bears, the 2 seed. Critical flaw for the Bears.
Does it have to be the occasional missed pass from Caleb Williams that's in a critical situation? Does it have to be that?
I still think it's the defense. I would say specifically it's the pass rush. And I would because they've forced so many turnovers this year. That is the thing. Like when you say, this team's a fraud. This is tough to sustain. You have all the 1-score wins for the Bears and all the turnovers. And the turnovers they tend to regress at some point in life. But I'd say it's the pass rush for the Bears.
So they're still basically only Montez Sweat.
Trevon Dexter.
Yeah.
Do they have Austin Booker shows flashes? Booker, I think, can beat up on some backup
he hasn't been
tackles.
There all year.
Right. But I would say specifically it's the pass rush. Okay. Now, I mean, if you want to get granular,
I'll go with that.
I would like to have Caleb Williams hit a few more throws.
No, I'll go with that. Outside of Montez Sweat, the pass rush is still pretty lightweight.
Philadelphia Eagles.
I mean, why do they go missing for giant stretches of games on either side?
Being able to say they're going to go 5 straight possessions and punt in the second half, and just being half joking, but pretty confident about it. I was pretty confident when that crossed my mind against the Bills. I expected that to happen. The fact that the Eagles' offense disappears for 30 minutes per game.
Yeah.
You don't know which 30 minutes it's going to be, but it's going to disappear. That's the flaw.
A total lack of creativity on that side of the ball.
You could make the argument that their defense, I would say outside of getting gashed by Chicago on Black Friday, their defense, right up there with Seattle, maybe as good as anybody in the NFC.
That's the thing. Their defense has been really good other than the one game where they looked incredibly vulnerable, which is kind of a shock, and it's the sort of thing that makes you a little twitchy about, supporting them or having confidence in them that much going into the playoffs where you're going to get all those good teams. So generally, my confidence level for the Eagles defense would be extremely high. But that one game was such a they got bullied.
We got 1 minute per team, Panthers and Bucks as the 4 seed. Panthers pass game, Bucks, just vibes, man.
I mean, the Panthers,
poor.
it's the fact that they are schizophrenic and crazy, and that's great going through, but they're like a 500 team. Like, they're going to win a game, lose a game. It's probably the ones you're not expecting in either direction, but you can't really win Super Bowls that way because you have to win 3 or 4 of them.
Bucks, the fact that they've only won 1 game since October.
Their pass game has disappeared.
Pass game's gone.
Yeah.
Baker's confidence. Look, you just don't have that feel that Baker's going to put a good game together, even though he's capable. Just not feeling it right now. Seattle Seahawks, the 5 seed. Critical weakness.
Oh, that guy's going to get so mad when we say it's Darnold.
Well, the first half, second half splits for this. Like, Darnold's second half has been below average. The second half of the season. Of the season,
yeah.
Right? As great. Remember, basically since the point
he was
I
like
said,
the best quarterback in the NFL for the first half of the year by almost any metric.
Since the point I highlighted that he is averaging 10 yards per attempt, which is insane.
Yeah.
He has been, like, that's the weakness. And here's more specifically, balance on offense, because last week the run game was fantastic, but first half of the year the run game was non-existent. They haven't put together a lot of complete offensive efforts. So I would say offense as a whole, maybe Darnold goes back to the way he played in the first half, but can the run game complement it? We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can limit it to Darnold. Look, I keep using the word implosion for those terrible games he's had. I think you can just limit it at this point to saying Darnold under pressure could be a problem as a general statement. Now, that doesn't mean in every single time he's been under pressure he's made a mistake, but now his season, if you just look at the splits of pressure versus no, they're just a nice clean. He's a guy that does really well when he's kept clean, and actually he struggles quite a lot when you put him under pressure. So against the better teams in the playoffs, I think you're going to get him under pressure a lot more. And Darnold under pressure has been a bit of an issue this season where, he's averaging 6.5 yards per attempt instead of 9.5 or 10. He's got a turnover-worthy play rate that doubles or more than doubles when you put him under pressure. So I think Darnold under pressure is their Achilles heel.
All right, we got 2 more. Los Angeles Rams currently the 6th seed.
Yeah.
I would say special teams.
But it fixed.
But they fixed it.
I would say, so I made this, Ben Allen was texting me during my Odysseus-like voyage on the way home yesterday, and we were talking about the MVP thing, and I made the point that Stafford's offensive line got 2/5 as bad as Herbert's has been all season long, and he turned into a turnover machine immediately. Maybe that's it. Maybe if you have to go to DJ Humphries at left tackle, you're screwed.
A lot more negative plays the other day, run game and pass game for the Rams. Maybe a little O-line fragility there.
Yeah, so maybe simply injuries. Like if they get one or 2 more in the wrong place or the ones that they have sustained, they're in trouble.
I would say a little bit of run defense too, kind of like the Bills. It doesn't show up every week, and they're feisty. But overall, they're undersized, and they just gave up almost,
deliberately,
200 to Bijan, and that can get exploited by the right team, right? Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Green Bay Packers, the 7th seed there. Critical flaw. Well, no Micah Parsons is a start.
And that
pass rush.
It becomes the pass rush. They had fixed it, and now it got broken again because the guy you fixed it with is hurt. So I guess without him, they don't have the pass rush. They don't have just the sheer dominance level on defense to do it anymore.
I think that's the biggest one for the Packers.
Yeah.
He made such an impact for them where they looked like they were unstoppable defensively early in the season. Mm-hmm. And that is
it's not the case anymore.
That has completely changed. All right, we got Pony here.
See? Right on the dot. Look at it. 9:30.
You had no faith, Will, that we could stay on time. There he is. Andrew Fillipponi. 93.7 The Fan. Can you hear us okay? Are we coming through? Is that a yes or no?
Now I got you.
There we go.
There we go. Pony, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I've been looking at you talking, and I have no clue what the last 5 minutes of the conversation has been. So if you're ripping me for getting my nipples pierced or something, I have no rebuttal right now because nothing was captioned or anything. So I'm in the dark.
We were going to ask you directly about that. So how's that going? And did you keep it going? Like, where are we in this whole thing? Or was it just like it's
this
done
journey,
now? Yeah.
the spiritual journey that I went on?
Yeah. We were curious, did you keep them? Like, obviously you got them done, and wow. But
I have in my office as like a memento, I still have the piercings right here. I'll place them closer to the camera. Okay.
So now the question, when did they come, how long after them being rammed through your nipples did they come out permanently?
Yeah. Well, I got them done on October 29th. And my daughter is 2 years old, and Halloween was basically her Super Bowl. So it was super cold here in Pittsburgh that night. And everybody who had talked to me about getting their nipples pierced, who had experience, said when it gets cold, the metal in your nipples is going to shoot through your body if you're out in cold weather, and it's going to be a very painful experience. So I made a deal with my wife that I would have them removed before we went out trick-or-treating. So I had them
fair.
Halloween afternoon. I did the adult mature thing. And honestly, my nipples are back to 100%. You wouldn't know
that they were thing to hear.
Months ago. Yeah.
I guess we should back up for people that don't know the origin of this story and are just wondering what the hell is happening right now. Explain to the people why you had to have your nipples pierced, basically publicly.
Yeah, because I'm an idiot, for starters. And I predicted that there was no chance the Steelers were going to go into Cincinnati and lose to Joe Flacco and the Bengals on a Thursday night. Having watched the Bengals defense and the Bengals no-show run game for months, and said, the Steelers aren't going to lose this game. Aaron Rodgers is different, all those things. Then they lost, and everybody on the internet caught wind of this and wouldn't allow for me to back out or come up with some kind of radio-fueled excuse for not doing it. So I did it, and it hurt like hell. I would not recommend doing it unless you get your nipples numbed, which I could not do. That was part of the deal. It was a 10 out of 10 pain for about 5 minutes. Oh. And then it didn't feel good, but it didn't feel bad for the 2 days that I had them in.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And
there you go.
So I'm on with you guys almost every week, which is my favorite radio hit that I do. I mean, just you guys, 93.7 The Fan, Pittsburgh. Not only will they'll put me on the spot, Sam, with some great questions, all the way from Steelers talk all the way to like 90s wrestling, right? So we got some good discussions. And then Pony will put like, well, here's what Steve said. What do you think, Steelers fans? And they're, always my favorite fan base and everything. But it was a hint of, it felt like you were maybe blaming me that this thing went viral, that I was one of the people that helped make this a big thing.
I mean, I think that you guys definitely got it out to the Cincinnati fans probably better than I would have. But no, in no way am I blaming anybody but myself with this one.
I mean, I feel like I amplified your Kenny Pickett equals Joe Montana take even more than this.
Look, it was definitely something that, we saw starting to catch fire a little bit during the game. And we're like, we're definitely going to help push that. I mean, once it's rolling, it would be crazy not to jump on that bandwagon.
If I were in your shoes, I would have probably done the same thing, guys. So no hard feelings over this.
Well, we had fun watching this whole thing, and you raised money for charity and everything, and turned it into something positive and everything. So it was a good. It ended up being a good thing, I think, overall. We were talking critical flaws for each team in the playoff picture. So let's start with that. And that we have a million Mike Tomlin questions, because it's just the whole thing's fascinating. But what is the biggest flaw in the Steelers? What, as a diehard Pittsburgh fan, what are you most fearful of going into Sunday night's game, and then if they get into the playoffs?
Well, I'm not fearful of any of those things now, because I don't even really want them to make the playoffs. Ooh. So there's no sense of, these things need to happen for them to win, and if they don't, I'm going to be devastated, or, I'm up at night scheming up in my head ways that they can beat the Ravens and find their way into the playoffs and hope springs eternal. There's none of that. That loss in Cleveland on Sunday took all of those hopes and dreams away from me. So I'll start by saying that. But then if I take your question seriously, the thing that's fresh on my mind right now is history is repeating itself for the second consecutive year. Last year, a big reason why they lost 5 in a row was because George Pickens had a hamstring injury, and they were throwing to Van Jefferson and Mike Williams with the season on the line against good teams. And those guys couldn't get open. And so their strategy in March was, let's trade for DK Metcalf. Great. Now we've got DK Metcalf and George Pickens. Good luck with that. Aaron Rodgers gets through his flirtation period, and he's talking to the Steelers about what he wants and what he's hoping for. And my personal opinion is he didn't want to put up with the Pickens headache. And that completely changed their philosophy. on what they were going to do with their offense, and I think they acquiesced to him. He's made it abundantly clear in every interview that he's done, both preseason and during the season, that he wanted this year to be different from the Jets season in that he wanted this to be fun. He wanted to enjoy himself. He wanted to re-embrace his love for football. And I think he looked at George Pickens as a barrier or an obstacle to achieve that. And that's why I think they traded him to the Cowboys after the draft, by the way, where they couldn't go get another young wide receiver to help offset the loss of Pickens. So now that DK Metcalf is out, we saw it. I mean, you're throwing to MVS 9 times. You're throwing to Scotty Miller on 4th and 1. These are practice squad, 5th wide receiver on your depth chart type players. And it's just their lack of ability to find suitable players at that position, which is insane because for about 15 years, the Steelers were synonymous with finding wide receivers and being the best team at the NFL at getting wide receivers in the draft. And now this team has one good wide receiver. That's it.
How much? So interesting perspective on Pickens because I hadn't thought of it that way. Obviously, Rodgers has a ton of influence on his receiving core. Hadn't thought of it as like he's out on Pickens, but that kind of makes sense. The Mike Tomlin thing is wild. I think you guys have talked a lot. I mean, you guys have to deal with these conversations every day, right? Like he's never had a losing season, but he hasn't. I've seen you vent about the playoff appearances and giving up 40 points per game in the last 5 games or whatever it is. Why are there so many? First off, why are there so many consistent trends in a Mike Tomlin season? Why are there so many games where the Steelers win games that they're not supposed to win, lose games that they're not supposed to lose, like a Thursday night game against Cincinnati? Like nothing made sense about that game going in that they would lose. Nothing made sense really. The 8-1 Colts or whatever they were at the time dominated them. But why is that? Why is Tomlin so predictable? And then Sam wants a list of what those predictable things are from Tomlin. Which, right? Do you have a list of they're always going to lose on Thursday night, they're always going to lose in Cleveland? Like, what is the list of things that always happen?
Every time one of these games happens, it's like Tomlin is, 0-12 in this specific weird situation that nobody knew going into the game. Right. So what are all of – because we must be able to, plot out 60% of a Pittsburgh season before we've even started the year just based off the trends that Tomlin has.
So they never lose at home on a Monday night. He's undefeated at home in his career on Monday Night Football. There's one
down here.
Yep.
Monday Night Football at home.
Yes. They have lost now 4 straight games in Cleveland, and they are 1-6-1 in their last 8 games there. So that's also turned into an unbelievable bugaboo.
That's an L.
I think I don't have the record in front of me, but I believe he has the best outright win percentage of any current NFL head coach as a home underdog. Is another weird one.
Okay.
And they are a 3.5 point home underdog on
home
Sunday night.
So
that's
winning.
what we were saying.
That's all I need. That's all I need. Because he's like QB proof with his trends. Like Aaron Rodgers, having him in the building has not changed the trend in Cleveland or changed the Thursday night road game, or he hasn't changed anything.
But that's the thing. Like 3 weeks ago, I said they were going to win the 2 games either side of the Browns game and lose the Browns game because, of course, that's what Tomlin's going to find a way of doing. And like that, as you said, if they're home underdogs and they always win those games, that's exactly what's going to happen.
That's it.
That's
my pick.
If Tomlin keeps with his script, they'll beat the Ravens on Sunday.
And they get wrecked in the playoffs.
Fall behind in the AFC wildcard game 24-0 after the first quarter and lose the game by at least 3 scores.
Which was like Browns in 2020, the Bills games.
It's like 100% on script.
The Steelers were like the poster child for like don't let a 7 seed into the playoffs because they're going to get wrecked by the Bills or the Chiefs, and those teams should have just had a bye.
Their last 6 playoff games, all losses. They have fallen behind by a combined score of 73-0 in the first quarter.
Yikes.
They have not scored a single first quarter point in any of those games. And you guys see the graphic every week. They haven't scored more than a touchdown in the first quarter of a game in 65 games.
Yeah.
So how much so this becomes the discussion on Tomlin, right, is that he creates these 9-win seasons every year. And then we get to the playoffs or not. that gets you to the kind of cusp of the playoffs, a bit like the Vikings with Kirk Cousins. And then once you play decent football teams in the postseason, you get destroyed, and you just repeat the cycle over and over again. And obviously, he's now reaching this stage where, a bit like Mike Shanahan back in Denver, eventually the goodwill, the Super Bowl magic runs out, and everyone's calling for your job. One of the first things of pushback everyone gives on Tomlin is, when was the last time he had a real quarterback? Like, he's doing this now. This stretch of good but annoyingly disappointing is coinciding with Big Ben got old, and since then he's basically not had a quarterback.
Yeah.
And even Rodgers now, obviously he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest to ever play, but he's over 40 and he's not what he used to be. So how much sort of mitigation should Tomlin get for the fact that he hasn't had a high-level quarterback for a long time now?
Well, I think very little. The reason why I say that is because a lot of the decisions they've made are his decisions. This isn't things that have been mandated to him or jammed down his throat. Like, one of the things that I bring up sometimes, not a lot, but once in a while on the show, which is it maybe in the question you're asking, Sam, like might be like a minor point against him. But to me, I think it's actually based on how the NFL has trended the last few years, is actually a pretty good argument for why I don't think he's the right coach for them anymore. So when Ben retired, he thought the guy to go get, who was this drafted high potential guy who was just in the wrong organization and just needed a better supporting cast and a better infrastructure and system around him, was Mitch Trubisky. He could have had, for less money, Baker Mayfield. And he played Baker Mayfield twice a year and lost a playoff game to Baker Mayfield where they fell behind 28-0. And ask yourself this question. If Baker Mayfield had his druthers, do you think he would have wanted to go to Tampa Bay? And I get it. They had wide receivers and Brady had won there. Or do you think he would have found even more delight in going to the place inside the division where he could have shoved it up the Browns' rear end twice a year, every year? He picked Mitch. That was his call. He thought he could do what the Seahawks and Vikings have done with Sam Darnold with Mitch Trubisky. Okay, strike one. Strike two was, and I'm guilty of this too, hand in the air. He thought Kenny Pickett was the answer at quarterback. That's not the owner's fault. That's not the GM's fault. He went to the pro days. He went to the Senior Bowls. He interviewed the guy because he was right next door. He thought that was his answer at quarterback. Strike two. Strike three is what he's done with these old hag quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Steve said it before the year. He'll admit to this. He thought Aaron Rodgers was a top 10 to 12 quarterback. If you've got a top 10 to 12 quarterback with a $170 million defense, with on paper good talent on defense and a defensive-minded coach, how are you the 15th scoring defense in the NFL and even go into EPA per play in the advanced stats? You're not a good defense. It's unacceptable. It just is.
That's the part that I have. That's the part where I find the strongest argument against Tomlin right now is if his defense was amazing and you just had this inefficiency and bad luck or bad decisions at quarterback, okay, I can defend that. Like, Tomlin's doing everything he can on his side of the ball, but whoever is at fault, they can't find an answer at quarterback since the Hall of Famer that they had got old. But the defense is wildly underachieving relative to the talent on there and the amount of money spent on it. And that should be something he can fix.
And Watts missed games here, and okay, fine. But again, that's a team thing. That's just a wild story that is just unfathomable that something like that could happen. My thing is, if Tomlin is the great defensive head coach that he is proclaimed to be by people in the national sports media and football media, why can't he do with the Steelers defense what Kyle Shanahan has done with the 49ers offense as far as making do with less? And I would even say that he really hasn't had less for the season. Derek Harmon has missed some time. Watt has missed these last few games. Herbig's had a hamstring injury. Highsmith has missed games here or there. But it's not like they've been decimated by injuries. They've had most of their collection of players for the majority of the year, and they've given up 200 rushing yards in a game, I think 3 times this year. For large chunks of the season, they were ranked as the worst pass defense in the entire NFL. It's just, It's mind-blowing that with the personnel they have and with the person calling the shots, that their defense is so mediocre.
That's where I've come around to, because when we've debated on the show here, I use the QB excuse. Like, if you give him Roethlisberger, they're competing for Super Bowls maybe. But when you give him Kenny Pickett, Trubisky, and whatever, it's like, well, the fact that they even get to 9 wins is actually impressive. Now, you mentioned Tomlin's got a hand in how they got there, but and then you have this whole NFL, like Brady leaves, Belichick, and Belichick's not the same, right? How much does the quarterback influence things? But this is why the Tomlin discussion's so interesting to me. It's like, whether he has Trubisky or Pickett, and even Rodgers, right? It still feels like the same team every year with different quarterbacks. That is what is the fact that he is so consistent in the good and the bad, including the defense, man. Like, the defense getting picked apart like it has by good quarterbacks over the last decade. When they go up against good quarterbacks, they get picked apart. And then every now and again, it's like, oh, there's that defense. There are all the turnovers. There's the pass rush. And it is so inconsistent. They're consistently inconsistent. And it is unbelievable how consistent Mike Tomlin is year over year in his team.
Well, and I've made this point too to my listeners and people that watch our show. It's so short-sighted, the way that the team is constructed, and his, I think, ideology as someone that has more say than just the head coach. He's so involved in the drafting of players and the accumulation of talent, free agency, trades, etc. All these moves are made to win the game that's right in front of you, to be the best team you can be in the next season, with the big picture and long-term of the franchise completely put on the back burner. Now, I will admit right now to you guys, I don't think any amount of, fostering of talent with Kenny Pickett as far as development, coddling, et cetera, would have made him a good NFL quarterback. I will concede that. But they drafted a quarterback in the first round. And instead of the plan being, let's do everything in our power to get this guy ready to be our quarterback, they staged a quarterback competition and put eggs in Mitch Trubisky's basket because they thought Mitch Trubisky gave them the best chance to win week 1 against Cincinnati. And everything that was done in minicamp, training camp, and the preseason was to get him prepared. A journeyman quarterback, not the guy you used a first-round draft pick on. You guys caught crap for this, and so did I initially. They drafted a running back in the first round. Why? Because they wanted him to help Ben Roethlisberger in the last season of his career. Not because it was good for the overall state of the franchise. It was all about that next game. And they've operated that way for a long time. And it's fine to operate that way when you've got a franchise quarterback. You don't have a riddle or question mark at that position. But when you don't have that part of the equation solved, to me, you're only hurting yourself by trying to max out at 9 or 10 wins every year. They're consistently inconsistent at being the 15th, 16th, or 17th best team in the NFL every season. And that's the worst place to be. You guys know that.
So I guess the only question that really matters if in terms of projecting Tomlin forward, if he stayed, would be if you took a high-level Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber quarterback right now and put him on the Steelers, what is Tomlin's ceiling? Because right now, the defense of Tomlin is, well, he doesn't have the quarterback. And whether or not that's his fault, people will say it's an excuse. If you gave him his quarterback back, we've already seen he can win a Super Bowl. Is that still true if Tomlin had, if we put Justin Herbert right now on the Steelers, is this a team that can win a Super Bowl with Tomlin? Because the flaws, I think, they are real and they would still persist, but where's the balance?
I would say no to that because I don't think that the Steelers have a better, I don't think they have a better situation than the Chargers as far as, the whole coaching staff, the roster itself when healthy. If Herbert can't win playoff games in LA, I don't think if he trades places, he now is in the AFC Championship every year with the Steelers. I'd like to see, it's not going to happen. I'd like to see Sean McDermott get fired if the Bills lose in the first round and go have Mike coach there. And let's actually see it. Let's see what he can do with it, Josh Allen, at this stage of his coaching career. when Ben was still healthy before he blew out his elbow in 2019. In 2017, they were the worst 13-3 football team I've ever seen because they won every game at the end on a field goal and against a lot of backup quarterbacks like Jacoby Brissett and Brett Huntley. And they fell behind 21-0 to the Jaguars in a playoff game and gave up 45 points. Then the next year when Ben and AB were really cooking and Le'Veon was still here, they went to Oakland and Denver in December, two horrible teams, one quarterbacked, I think, by Case Keenum, and the other ended up 4-12 and lost both games. And then had that great win against New England the next week, but it was too little too late. They ended up missing the playoffs that year. So those are two recent examples of, Tomlin has the quarterback that everybody wants him to have, and he did nothing with either team. This is going to be 9 years without a playoff win. The only two modern-day coaches to have that amount of leash without winning a playoff game with one franchise for that number of years, Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati and Jim Mora in New Orleans. That's the company he's keeping right now. And I just think the game is somewhat passed him by. I'd love to see him go to the Giants or go to the Bills or go to one of these teams. And all right, you've got a young up-and-coming quarterback or a franchise quarterback. Good luck, Mike, because I don't think he'd win. I still think he'd be a guy, the ceiling is the floor, where they'd win 10 games every year and probably get bounced early in the playoffs.
If Tomlin's not the guy for Pittsburgh, and if they lose to Baltimore this week, or if they do what you said, right, go to round one, play the Texans, Chargers, Bills, and get smoked, and he's not the coach, first off, do you think he might not be the coach? And then secondly, who would you want? Who's the next Steelers coach for Pony?
All right, so here's the interesting thing about the Tomlin situation. I agree with public sentiment that it seems insane that he would not be back as Steelers head coach, even if they lost Sunday night 49-3. But he has an option on his deal for 2027 that the Steelers need to make a decision on by the start of the league year in 2026. He's under contract for next year. He's not technically under contract yet for 2027. If they lose, the optics of the owner picking up that 2027 option, having blown and collapsed again 2 years in a row, and having done worse with Aaron Rodgers, 9-8 missed the playoffs, than they did with Russell Wilson, 10-7 make the playoffs, and the whole organization saying, this is different, we've got the quarterback we can win with now. If he picks up that option, the fan base is going to revolt, and if you think fire Tomlin chants are bad, just wait until the drafts here in April and they boo the dickens out of Rooney and Tomlin and make the organization look bad when the entire NFL universe is in Pittsburgh. So if the option doesn't get picked up, then Tomlin goes into 2026 as a lame duck coach. And I can't see him wanting to do that. I just feel like that would be such a reversal in terms of the organization's confidence in him, his approval rating within the building, all of those things where, maybe he would go do TV for a year like Sean Payton did. I don't know. It just, that option thing, I think, looms large and hangs over them and is a real critical piece of Tomlin's future with the franchise. And then who would I want? I'd hire Marcus Freeman. I don't care about what he just posted on Twitter about his contract and, shamrock emojis and crap like that. Okay. The Utah coach said he was going to retire and never coach another game in college football. And the second Michigan showed any interest, he was on the first private jet to Ann Arbor. So these coaches say things, they never actually follow through with their word. That's what I would do if I were the Steelers. And then you'd have your coach for the next 20 years.
Wow, Marcus Freeman. Because we talked about that before. The Steelers have had 3 coaches, since the merger. Is there pressure to get the right guy because that's your trend, or is there pressure to just not fire people?
Both. I mean, you're asking about Art Rooney. I think he's paralyzed by fear that he's going to screw it up.
Yeah.
And he knows what his dad did and he knows what his grandfather did. And hiring coaches that are all in the Hall of Fame, that are all Super Bowl winners. Absolutely. I think it's something that keeps them in this status quo. Their whole identity as an organization is stability with the head coach. It's hard to break from that and deviate from that. But like I said, I think if they lose and Tomlin senses that they might not pick up that option, maybe he leaves on his own volition and says, I need some time off. I don't want to do this right now. That would be great. That would be fantastic. That's what I'm rooting for on Sunday night.
I got one more question really quick because you hinted at this. How much say does Mike Tomlin have versus, say, Omar Khan as GM? Does Tomlin have his hand? Like Bill Belichick was the GM for the Patriots. We all knew that. But how close to the GM is Mike Tomlin, or like the GM of the team? Like how much influence does he actually have in draft and free agent decisions?
I think everything. I think Omar Khan, I think the difference between him and Kevin Colbert is that Omar, his background is in contracts and player agent negotiations. And I think he's done a better job than Kevin at understanding like what is going on in the league as far as who's available in a trade, what the market is for players, who may or may not be available. And I think that's really his biggest asset as a front office executive. And so that's how he compliments Mike. I think he's able to tell Mike things like, hey, DK Metcalf is out there. I've talked to his agent. I've talked to the team. This is what it would take to get him. Is that something you want to do? This wide receiver's out there. What would you give up for him? This guy might get cut. This trade is available to us. This free agent. I mean, I think that's what he's better at. And I think then Mike ultimately has the final say on what players they acquire. In the draft, too. I mean, everyone says it about the Senior Bowl. There's no coach that's more involved with that than Mike.
I was about to say it. Like, I make it a point to stand right there for the O-line, D-line, one-on-ones. I'm like front row, and Tomlin's right next to me, and he's coaching up both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive line. He is learning about every single player.
Reasoning. Why would he do that if he didn't have big say over it? He just does that for his own personal edification. He's like us. He has his own draft rankings that he follows and said, I would have picked this guy if I were in charge. Of course not. He does it because he runs the drafts.
Yeah, no, it's funny because that it's supposed to be the advantage for the coaches who coach the players. Oh, you get to learn about the players and everything. It's like Tomlin just interjects himself and he coaches the players himself during one-on-ones and everything. He doesn't.
I think it's just played out here, guys. I just think it's run its course. I think it's hit its expiration date. I think all good things come to an end. I think he's overstayed probably his welcome by a couple of years, and I think it's just better for everybody to turn the page. And I'd like to think if the Ravens won on Sunday, it would hasten that, but you never know with this owner.
And it's you mentioned it, like it's serious pressure for an owner who does have that legacy to live up to. Particularly, I mean, Marcus Freeman would be a really interesting pick because the track record of these guys coming from college unproven into the NFL and it not working out pretty quickly. I mean, imagine that in Pittsburgh where you anoint this guy as the next successor. The franchise history says he now needs to be good for the next 15 years. And if he's bad in year one, suddenly that's a nightmare scenario for an owner.
Well, yeah, the last two guys, I mean, Noel obviously had a wider berth because he was taken out of franchise that had never really won a playoff game. Cowher won, I think, 11 games his first year and was coach of the year. Only time he won coach of the year. Only Steelers coach to win coach of the year was that season in 92 when they lost the divisional round to the Bills. And then Tomlin won the division in his first year, too, in 07, and then got beat by Steve's Jags. Rasheem Mathis, who just absolutely terrorized Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger sees Rasheem Mathis in his nightmares.
They beat them in what, week 15? Week 15 and in the playoffs, right? In Pittsburgh?
Correct.
In weather situation. That's right.
David Garrard.
He was good, man. Underrated.
Yep.
Underrated. David Garrard. Well, Pony, that was fun. I'm doing what you did, what you do to me. I just tweeted out that you said Marcus Freeman to the Steelers. Yeah, I'm just going to tweet out stuff you say, see how that goes.
Great.
It's great.
See, the thing about me, and I have the calluses on my hand, very thick skin, boys. Say what you want about me. I don't care. I love it. I live for this stuff.
We see, whether it's the Steelers, the Pirates, the Penguins, you wear your Pittsburgh emotions on your sleeve on social media, and it makes for fun times.
The thick skin must have been problematic for the nipple piercing.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, it was. It just not to get too graphic, but I was shocked by how hard it was, how difficult it was to jam the needle through. Like in my head, I thought
That's a segue. We're professionals here. While we have you, what happened with T.J. Watt? What's the needle incident with T.J. Watt? Who is to blame here?
Presumably not nipple piercing.
Great question. There is a lot of, from like people that are, I would say, on the periphery of the Steelers that are around them but don't work for them. So they're more neutral, although not entirely objective or neutral because they have working relationships with the Steelers, obviously. There's a lot of kind of nebulous things about what really happened, how it happened, who's really to blame for this. It's like I've not heard like a definitive, like alternative theory on what happened, but I've talked to several people who have just said like, this story makes no sense. I don't understand how a dry needling procedure could end up with someone puncturing their lung, especially when it was done to an extremely muscular human being. Like it just, without the, it's strange to professionals who are experienced doing this and also people that are now hearing this story secondhand from people in the know. So I wish I had a more clear-cut answer for you, Steve, but it's just a bizarre thing that the Steelers' most expensive player and best player has missed this amount of time because of something. If it happened the way that it went down, then there should be lawsuits and people should be fired for it because it should never, ever, ever have happened that way.
Had to ask. Had to see if there was any inside info there. Well, Pony, we appreciate all the time.
Boys. You bet. Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Keep up the good work, guys. See ya.
You too. Appreciate it, man. Got Pony on here.
We got him on.
Ever. He hasn't made Shouty Shows for us.
No,
ever.
True.
Feels like he could. He's got some emotional Pittsburgh takes, but he's great.
Evidently. And obviously we got to the bottom of the nipple piercing.
We got to the bottom of that, and he's just got a lot of insight, right? Speaks Tomlin's language. He understands how to read it, and he's lived it emotionally and seen it. And we think maybe things are coming to a head this weekend or next.
Could be. I mean,
but now that you think it is,
right? Well,
and they're home dogs.
I mean, look,
I now know to pick the Steelers this weekend.
I think it's very likely the Steelers end up winning this game and getting their way into the playoffs. Now, if they then get destroyed in the first round of the playoffs, we are back where we thought we would be, which is here's the status quo of this is what happens under Tomlin.
Here's what's interesting. I would say if, like right now, the Texans are the 5 seed, and if Pittsburgh was hosting Houston, that's not the type of team that blows you out. Now, maybe defensively, like if the Steelers go out and they score 3 points,
right?
But if we're trying to keep with this pattern,
I mean, maybe, yeah.
But if it was the Bills, I'd say Bills win 30-10 or something, and that wouldn't be surprising.
But I do think he's hit on like the reason this keeps happening is, even if it has run its course, even if you've decided that whatever Tomlin had back when he won a Super Bowl is gone, and he's just now stuck in this world of the things that he does bring to the table is enough to make you an 8-9 win team. The stuff that he's missing is terminal. The pressure that is on ownership there to not just if you're the owner of the Steelers, you're like, if I have to make this decision and I screw it up, like I am responsible for ruining the Pittsburgh Steelers legacy. Meanwhile, in my head, I know Tomlin can win a Super Bowl because he's already done it. Yeah. So of course you're going to try and give him as much rope, as much time.
You want me to fire a Super Bowl winning coach?
It's like because there's two different
in
ways.
The playoffs every year or close to it.
Like there's two different ways you can screw up this thing. Number one, by just getting the wrong guy if and when you've made the move. But number two, if you get the wrong guy, you're going to be seen as an idiot for hiring the wrong guy and an idiot for firing the guy that won the Super Bowl in the first place. Like it's almost a nightmare from an ownership perspective.
It is very similar to the Bengals situation with Marvin Lewis,
right? Where
you had, hey, they're in the playoffs. They're going to play. They're
going to
play
with the added bonus of he's literally won a Super Bowl already. Like if you want to talk yourself into Tomlin is good, he's already won one. Like at least with Marvin Lewis, he was like he's never, what's he actually done, right?
But you knew that the Bengals were going to play Saturday afternoon at 4:30 in the wild card round, and they were going to lose, but they were going to be there,
right?
For 8 straight years or whatever it was,
where
they just kept being right there.
But
in the mix,
but in order to talk yourself into, hey, you can win a championship with Marvin Lewis, you have to go back to like Baltimore.
Yeah,
I mean, he's won one,
yeah,
but never as a head coach, Whereas with Tomlin, again, if you want to make that argument, you can say he's won one right here.
There is some look. Is every own like we analyze the game through the lens of how do you get this team to a championship? And I think are there some owners who are just content with 9-win seasons?
Yeah,
and you just we're good enough.
I mean, we're
not bad.
The Steelers ownership in particular may be fearful of the grass being greener, the other side of that, like the flip side. It's not always. Like sometimes you can get a lot worse from a 9-win team that makes the playoffs. Quite often, you can do an awful lot worse than that, and we're kind of comfortable with the devil you know.
The most interesting perspective there before we move on that Pony brought that I thought I hadn't really heard before was that Tomlin thinks about the next game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, as far as off-season moves.
Right.
He is so concerned with
There's no long-term strategy here.
The next season, next game, which when you look at things in hindsight does make a lot of sense. And when he brings up the fact that they brought in Mitch Trubisky and they brought in Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
And they just said, well, Trubisky's our guy. And it's just like, next game.
Well, it explains things like Kenny Pickett. Like whether or not, like I would give Tomlin a bit of a break for drafting Kenny Pickett in the first round, not because, Kenny Pickett should have been seen as a great quarterback, but because they were in a situation where they needed a starting quarterback with a first-round draft pick with no options. And so you basically just had to draft the guy that you thought had the best chance of being that guy in that draft. Now,
right. What are your
with
options?
Hindsight, maybe you say, like, is that Malik Willis now, right? Should he have been the guy that was the one quarterback in it? But, like, most people thought Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback from that draft class who had any shot of being a guy. Now, again, as it turns out, most people may have ended up being wrong if Malik Willis is good and Kenny Pickett clearly isn't. But the original sin in that situation was not having the foresight to sort of look down the road a little bit and say, Big Ben is on his last legs. This can't go on too long. We need to start getting his replacement sooner rather than later. I know they drafted other guys as well, but like, let's make a concerted effort at that until we find someone we're comfortable with. The problem is there wasn't that serious, like, down the road foresight. We didn't do this the way Green Bay did it, and now we're stuck having to draft Kenny Pickett in the first round.
All right, good discussion. A lot of Steelers talk, but on our show, it's team building talk. We're talking about the relationship of the coach to the team building and the whole thing. So I think it's beyond just talking Pittsburgh, but appreciate Pony joining us for that discussion. You know how fast NFL game days move. One big play, everything changes. That's why live betting on Fanduel is a game changer. With Fanduel, you can bet in real time while the game unfolds. Score just flipped, you could jump on a new spread or a live money line. Wide receivers heating up, you could bet the next touchdown score or total yards. You think that drive's going to stall in the red zone? Well, you could take a live field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets. It's all there. It's fast, it's fun, and with Fanduel, your live bets move as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding momentum or fading the hype, Fanduel puts you right into the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd. Download the app and bet the NFL live all season long. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Paid endorsement. Today, we do have a little prop bet to discuss here. To discuss Aaron Rodgers over/under for that Week 18 game this Sunday night. Ravens at Steelers. Aaron Rodgers over/under is 200.5 passing yards. Of course, no DK Metcalf once again.
Yep.
It's Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It's Adam Thielen. It's Scotty Miller. You have no Darnell Washington. Do they go back to the backs with Kenneth Gainwell?
Everybody
Jaylen Warren?
Rodgers wants to throw to is not there.
Except the backs. Get the backs involved. And they were a big factor in this last Ravens game. Remember, the last time they played a few weeks ago, early December, that was the game I was calling the best Rodgers game I had seen. Now, that involved them using DK down the field.
Yeah.
And creating some big plays there, and that opened up for the running backs.
And
Can he get over 200.5 here on Sunday night?
Yeah, that, and it was like, where has this been, right? Where have these deep shots to DK Metcalf been all season? I'm going to go over just because I think this is the game they win. I think the script has been too clean for Pittsburgh for weeks, months now. And this is the game they're going to find. Last week, was the disappointing loss that was always coming. And so we're back to fire Tomlin. Let's get him out. It's a disaster. We knew this would happen. But this is the week he puts it back on track, gets him to the playoffs, and then you get another week of like, it's okay again, and then he gets bounced. So he wins. Tomlin wins. Rodgers wins. He goes over 200.
That was everything. That's all I needed. I mean, that's all I needed to hear was the trend. I wrote them all down. Monday Night Football at home, you're going to win. At Cleveland, lose. Road division game, we know that. You're going to lose. Home dog this weekend. Steelers are going to win. Rodgers is going over the 200.5. Completely. That's all I needed from Pony was the history and the trends there. Fanduel.com/33rd. Go check it out. All right, it's time for our Wednesday update. We're back.
Now it's time for the Wednesday update, brought to you by the Cincinnati Bugler.
You have your press pass?
I have it hanging up in my background. Appreciate my Christmas present, my official press pass. I will try that when we make our rounds during.
Yeah, just see what we can get into. Start waving it at people and see what doors it opens.
Between your hat and my actual press pass, we'll get in. We'll get in. Wednesday update. What do we have here? We were talking. Start talking Steelers here. Steelers. Darnell Washington did undergo surgery on his broken arm, and then Mike Tomlin is optimistic that T.J. Watt, with his lung injury, can play Sunday night.
Yeah, and this is it's similar but not quite the same as remember when Tyrod Taylor had his lung punctured by a Chargers doctor who was doing something to him as well.
Yes.
That was just injecting with painkillers or something. Right?
Remember, there was a point where T.J. Watt, the Steelers were like 1-10 without Watt. When we talk about trends that the Steelers always seem to have. And then they went like 2-0.
This is
they won
crazy,
a couple games without
like
him.
Pony was talking about the dry needling thing. It's like the stuff that looks like acupuncture. Like the needles are like this big and they just sort of sit in a muscle or whatever. Like the idea that punctured a lung is insane. Whatever. Like at least Tyrod Taylor's, I think they were giving him like an intramuscular injection in the rib area to numb pain. Like I get how that accidentally punctured a lung. Dry needling thing, it doesn't feel like that should be anywhere near your lung.
Yeah.
Like, what did the guy do? Sneeze when he was putting it in? I mean, that's not good.
That's why I had to ask, because there's so many weird rumors and different things about the.
I mean, definitely that taken on its face makes no sense. So, I mean, there is clearly missing information somewhere. I just don't know what it is.
Perhaps the biggest news from yesterday: Cowboys have waived cornerback Trevon Diggs.
Yes.
This had been brewing. Jane Slater was on it. We could read this. Trevon Diggs, Jane Slater says, Trevon Diggs just called me to tell me the Cowboys have released him. While he says he will miss his time in Dallas, he assures me he is healthy and motivated as he looks to join another team for another piece to add to this postseason.
Yeah.
So he called Jane. He called Clarence, the Dallas beat writer. Trevon got his story out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so part of the story was he asked the team to stay in Washington. It was Christmas Day.
Right.
To stay in Washington and not fly back on the team flight, and they denied it.
Yeah. Because his family are from the D.C. area.
Right.
He was like, if you make me go back, I'll be getting on a plane and going right back to where we left. Like, that's idiotic.
And so there's two sides to this, right? Trayvon's getting the story out there, and of course the average person's like, well, of course, why wouldn't you let him do that?
Right.
But it is very much against most team protocols. The last notable leave behind. The last notable, this guy didn't get on the team plane. The last one that we at least really know of was Urban Meyer. When he stayed in Cincinnati to tend to his bar. And he was tending to the young ladies at the bar.
Yeah. It is, like, it must be a pretty unusual situation where, like, the guy, like, for Christmas, the guy simply wants to stay in the city where his family are, where they are playing, and they have he will be released the second. Like, his point is fair, right? Like, you're going to let me go anyway because we have time off, and I'm literally just going to have to get back on a plane to come back to the place we left in the first place. Like, that's crazy. That part is pretty reasonable. Now, the counter to that is what you're saying, which is the protocol is everyone gets on the plane and, you come back home. Like, that's just how it works. So, but it is reasonable to say, but that is putting me in an idiotic situation. Why would you not just let me stay here?
Because you just look. I've seen insiders on both sides of this.
Oh, they must be torn between the free information being thrown their way from
So
everywhere.
I saw people posting the Schottenheimer's family out in Jackson Hole or whatever they went
Wyoming.
skiing
in
Wyoming, right? And it's like, okay, so but they flew home with the team and then flew to Wyoming.
But he's flying somewhere else. He's not going back to where they left. Like that. Find me one of those people, and I'll have more sympathy
I get
with
it.
that
And
argument.
then like Jonathan Jones comes out from CBS and is like, look, this is standard protocol. You don't want to open this can. And
I agree.
And then you figure out how many situations do you.
So that's what I want to know is how many times has it come up before? Show me those situations. I want to see the cases where somebody has said, leave me here because I have time off and I'm going here, right? Find me those people, and how many of those have been denied where it said, like, no, you get, because this is everyone's like, well, everyone gets on the plane, then you go to wherever you're going to. But they're going somewhere else. They're not going back to where they just been.
The only way to analyze this is to relate it to yourself. So when I was playing college summer league, Sam, the New England Collegiate Baseball League, one of my teammates lived out in Worcester, Mass.
Yeah.
And half of our road trips, they were day trips, Sam. We'd be in Lowell, Mass, and we'd have to drive 3 or 4 hours to Connecticut or, whatever it was. And we would pass this kid's house every day, one of my teammates out in Worcester. And he was like, he would have to drive 45 minutes to get on a bus to then drive back and pass his house. And it took him half the season. Big kid, too, like big, intimidating guy. Like he uses presence like you always want me to. Mm-hmm. And he finally he's like, can I just, instead of driving home at 2 a.m, can you guys just pick me up?
Right.
And finally, and it made sense.
Yeah,
it was fine.
That's the thing.
It made sense. So Tim, we picked him up. Because who wanted to mess with Tim?
Nobody.
Poor guy had to waste an hour and a half of his life in a car passing his exit all the time. So we let it happen. Just let him stay back. But this was a culmination, though, of stuff that was going down. Like
the straw that broke
this was
the camel's
rumored
back.
for a while. And now
By the way,
Trevon Diggs is out there.
He stayed, right? Like this is the thing that the problem here is that he basically just said to hell with it and did it anyway.
I don't know, but it sounded like he was already done. Like he was.
No, agreed. But the thing, like the argument was,
I don't know if he ended up saying.
I think he did. I think that's the thing. That's why they were like, all right, you're out.
So now he's available.
Let me just check that.
And he could clear waivers. He's on waivers today, and if he clears waivers, any playoff team can pick him up.
Yeah. That's true. Like, that is kind of interesting that he's available to walk onto a team. I mean, this is the most Dallas Cowboys story in the history of the world. I mean, they basically got zero good football out of Trevon Diggs once they paid him money. Like, they gave him a ton of money, and even at that point, it was like 5-year, $90-something million when they gave him the contract extension. Even at that point, you're like, Diggs has been this boomer bust corner. The highs are amazing. He's a ball hawk, but he also gives up quite a lot. Is that a good deal? From that moment on, he got injured and played badly. And so Dallas basically saw zero good play from Trevon Diggs from the moment they paid him money, and then end up having to release him as well because relationship between the two had soured so much that you have this ridiculous dance over whether or not he's staying at the place that he'd just been or not, and they end up cutting him. I mean, this is a joke of a move.
It's an interesting dynamic because we cut our teeth at PFF, spent a lot of time over at the analytical site. And one of the more common things we'd always say is interceptions fluctuate, right? In year 2, Trevon Diggs had 11 interceptions. He also gave up over 1,000 yards. And I can't remember if I mentioned this on air or not, but I did tweet out at one point that he gave up, when he hit the 1,000-yard mark that year. I just thought it was an interesting stat. And Trevon jumped into my DMs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He wasn't pleased.
What did he say?
I don't remember something about. He was like a couple.
Just upset.
Like you, whatever.
Just insult you. Yeah.
He was upset, like me being negative. But remember, that was the year. It's like he would pick off passes. Had 11. It's a monster number, and he'd give up 75-yarder.
So confirmed. Clarence Hill Jr. Multiple sources confirmed that former Cowboys cornerback Trevon Diggs initially went through proper channels and requested to stay in Washington after the Christmas Day game and was denied. He stayed behind with family.
Yeah.
So he did.
So he broke the rule.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing that got him released is once he'd went through proper channels multiple times and been like, hey, this is stupid, let me stay. And they said, no, you come home. He just stayed.
And then Clarence also, but it wasn't Clarence that put out the 4 pictures of the Schottenheimers in Wyoming.
It was a long weekend. Many coaches and players got away from Dallas after returning home, including Cowboys coach Brian Schottenheimer, who went skiing with his family in Wyoming.
As they should.
Sure.
Which is fine, but that's like those are unrelated things.
I mean, they're not unrelated, but it's not the same. Like the point, the fact that other people left to spend time with their family at the holidays is kind of irrelevant, other than to illustrate that part of it is normal. The critical difference here is that Diggs wanted to stay in the city that they were leaving from, whereas everyone else was going somewhere else.
The question about Diggs as a player, though, 11 interceptions in 2021. I think that includes the playoffs. Did he have one in the playoffs? He's had 6 since then.
Right.
Over the last 4 years. Now, he barely played in 2023.
Giving up like the same number of touchdowns.
Yeah, so that's the question. He was, even that year, was a boom or bust player. Did he have those picks? Yes. Was he a ball hawk? Absolutely. Was he in adjacent to a lot of busted coverages?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So does that fit in with anyone? It's funny because I know Packers fans, they have questions about their corners, and my answer was like, well, if they had Micah Parsons still, Trevon's good when he has a Micah Parsons. When you have that pass rush and you could take your chances and force some turnovers, it works. I don't know if it's going to work with Green Bay's pass rush right now, the way they are.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I don't know what he would be an interesting player to add because of the potential high upside and, as a depth thing and as a fairly cheap, buy low, see what you have type of deal. But recent history does not say that he's bringing. This is not, hey, there's an all-pro player out here. I'm just suddenly available on the open market for anybody making the playoffs. Like
is there a team that makes sense?
The narrative that you're hearing of, some team can pick up this superstar player going into the postseason. I mean, he's not that right now. There's no evidence that he's that guy at the moment.
Jags just lost Jordan Lewis for the season, but I don't think
that's certainly not a like-for-like replacement.
No. Houston's interesting. Just because it seemed like the drop-off to Tremon Smith beyond Kamari Lassiter the other day was an issue. Is he a depth play for a team like Houston?
The Bears.
Then I just think about how much do you actually want to upset I don't know if it's upsetting the locker room or whatever, but the guy who just got pushed out of Dallas, is he going to improve a playoff team situation on or off the field? I don't know if that's truly the case.
The Bears would be interesting because Al Harris, their defensive back coach, coached Trevon Diggs. So often you see that as a connection of a guy who knows them. Now, they can go both ways,
Yeah, it depends
I don't want any part of that.
Depends on how much you know.
Right. But what you know. But if Al Harris liked him, if Al Harris thinks he's good, the Bears are an interesting landing spot because of that.
So anyway, something to keep an eye on here with Diggs being out there. I don't have a great perfect landing spot here.
No.
I'm just going to read the notes that are here from producer Will. The Jets have the number 5 worst pass defense of the DVOA era.
Yeah. Aaron Schatz was back tweeting the all-time rankings.
Number 5 worst pass defense, which includes the 1981 Baltimore Colts, of course. We all remember how that went. The 99 San Francisco 49ers, which my 99 Jags torched in week 1, 41-3. The 79 49ers.
Sure.
The 96 Baltimore Ravens. That was
Montana 49ers.
Yeah. Did that get them, Montana? When was he drafted?
Probably, yeah.
And then the 96 Baltimore Ravens. That was the year right after they moved from Cleveland. And then your 2025 New York Jets. I see the 2019 Dolphins on there. Remember the Dolphins?
That would have been rookie year, Montana, right?
Oh, rookie. Yeah, what year was he
drafted?
But
I don't know how much he played as a rookie.
Yeah. But this is past defense.
So find out.
He wasn't playing corner back then.
That's very true.
The other teams that stand out there, the 2019 Dolphins, that was the tank team. The team that got accused of tanking and felt like it, right? Like early in the season, the Ravens beat them by 100, the Patriots beat them by 100. Like they were just getting destroyed. That was one of the worst NFL teams I've ever seen until Flores, who's the head coach, started to turn it around in the second half. And then the 2015 Saints, that was when they picked up Brandon Browner, and he had one of the worst quarterback seasons I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, Joe Montana attempted exactly 23 passes as a rookie, so not a big part of that collapse.
So anyway, the 25 Jets here, they'd already fired defensive coordinator Steve Wilkes. They just got smoked by Drake Maye and the Patriots. It's one of the worst pass defenses of all time.
Yeah, they've been terrible. I mean, there's not much to say about that. They've been awful. I guess. I mean, they appear to be at least making the noises that, Aaron Glenn is still safe. We like what he's doing, whatever. We're not making a move. It's always a little uncomfortable when, the side of the ball that the guy was supposed to be the bringing with him is awful. Whatever about where the culture is going and what he's doing big picture-wise, like him presiding over a terrible defense is not great.
Ironically, the early Robert Saleh era had that. What year was it? It might have been 21 or 22, where the Jets' defense was so bad. Remember, they gave up an Urban to the Colts. I want to say it was 21. They gave up an Urban to the Colts where they gave up 250 passing and rushing yards or whatever it was. Like, Saleh's defense was terrible. And then they turned it around a little bit. They did turn it around the next couple seasons before he got fired. So doesn't mean it can't turn around. But, it's been a rough season for the Jets, who still do not have an interception.
Yeah. They're one game away from going the whole season without an interception as a defense, which is crazy.
And look, interception rates are way down in this era of football.
Yeah, but
interception rates are way. I mean, you should have more than zero, but that is 16 games into the year.
Yeah,
a wild stat.
Right, it is crazy. I mean, absolutely nuts. Like
maybe Mitch Trubisky will throw something.
The number of plays you look at on a weekly basis, where you're like, the ball hits a wide receiver in the hands and it bounces just into the arms of it. Like,
I haven't had one of those.
The fact that you haven't accidentally stumbled into one of those yet is crazy.
All right, I'm just going through the list here. I don't know why, but I'm just going to read all the bullet points.
Okay.
The Ravens wore cheese grater hats after beating the Packers.
All right. I read something recently about those cheese grater hats, and now I can't remember what it was. It was a little anecdote about someone that he'd been screwed or something, or he hadn't gotten a contract, and he's like, I'm going to make the cheese grater hats now. And they're now selling like hotcakes.
Opposite of the cheese heads.
Something like that. It was like he didn't get the cheese head contract or something like that, and now he's selling the cheese grater hats, and those are doing really well. I forget what the thing was, but
the Bears were rocking these the last week.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks in a row for the Packers, having to see the cheese graters. And my question is for Packers fans, and I've made this comparison before. The Packers fans they're similar to a college fan base. Because they're the owners, right? They're a little bit closer to the action. There's some similarities with the college fan base who like to blame, got to get rid of the coach and the strength coach and the coordinator and the linebackers coach sucks and all. That's some of the discourse with the Packers is adjacent to college fans in the way they like to discuss their team. And I want to know if the cheese grater is as insulting as, say, horns down to Longhorns fans. That was a penalty in the Big 12. That was a real insult if you did the horns down. So is the cheese grater equivalent to horns down for the Texas Longhorns?
So apparently at one point, the company that was making, I think they were making the cheese head hats, and they got a cease and desist letter from the Packers. So then they started making cheese grater hats, and now they're selling like hotcakes. That's pretty good. That was the story.
Every opponent's going to be grabbing the cheese graters.
Yeah.
And this is, producer Will putting our notes together, Bears fan. He's like, I love the big story, the cheese graters.
Cease and desist letter. You never want to be that guy, the send the cease and desist letter guy.
You don't want to receive it either.
Well,
nobody wants to cease
but
and desist.
There's an opportunity in receiving one, because you can put it out publicly, and now you're the downtrodden little guy, and
play
you get
victim.
Support. Yeah. You get victim, and you can turn it like this into, well, screw those guys. You don't want to be the one sending it, because everyone hates that guy.
Other news here. Colts are expected to start Riley Leonard this weekend against the Texans, ending the Phillip Rivers era, who said, quote, "It was a blast," end quote, and he'd do it again.
Absolutely. Because he just wanted to get hit, remember? Like he was just sitting on the couch wanting to get trucked by a defensive lineman. And he got his wish.
His kids aren't hitting him hard
So
enough.
it's nice that Phillip Rivers, old man Rivers, was basically a Make-A-Wish kid for the last couple of weeks, dressed up in the guise of, he may save the season. Even one of the first things he said at a press conference was like, I'm not here to save the season. I'm not going to, He was right. I'm just here to have fun for a couple of weeks. I get to play quarterback again for a couple of weeks, and that's all that really matters. And that's all that really did matter, is we got to see a couple of weeks of old man Rivers out here having fun, just enjoying life.
And
now he goes back to coach high school.
There is some innocence to this because we're all guilty, right? We get caught up in we only care about the Super Bowl. We only care about the championships. All of the discourses around who's the best quarterback, who's the MVP, do you have rings and this and that? And it's like they're just playing a game.
Yeah.
Right? And we're in college, the same thing.
And as long as you don't get a horrific injury, it's fun.
Yeah. Once you're out of the college football playoff,
right.
you're going to play in the bowl. The Notre Dame opted out of the bowl. And you have Phillip Rivers who's out here like, he's like, did I care about the backyard game when I was 10 years old? Absolutely. I care about this game too. Just go play football. It's fun.
I'm sure
These games matter.
everybody that's retired has had a period of time where they would like, I'd love to just play one more game. I mean, Phillip Rivers just got to do that.
He got to do it.
Twice.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But starting Riley Leonard is the right move.
Yeah.
Because he might have a future, and clearly Rivers doesn't.
You don't know that.
I mean, he said he doesn't.
Oh, is he done? He said he'd do it again.
Yeah, but he also said, I'm not doing it. Like, he said both. He said, I would, in the same situation, do the same thing again, but I'm not doing it again next year.
It is... We learned a lot, I think, though. Like, what does a 45-year-old, 44-year-old who has not played, and not like Tom Brady 44-year-old who's in shape.
Right.
What does
a visibly out of shape 44-year-old look like?
What can he do?
Football?
And it's like he can do enough to keep you intrigued.
Yeah.
And then,
throw a pick six.
Maybe it runs its course. Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, his contract expires at the end of the year. Quote, I absolutely want Brian Flores to be the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings as long as we can have him, end quote, from Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
We talked about this briefly on Monday. Interesting situation. Flores could be a head coaching candidate. Mm-hmm. There are some, the other circumstances that could limit him from being a head coaching candidate. And it could be a huge win for the Vikings to just have a guy who we know is really good as a defensive coordinator as the guy going forward, kind of like Spags has been in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. I searched Brian Flores' name. The first tweet that pops up is from Pony, who says, Brian Flores sounds done in Minnesota. Steelers should rehire him, and he becomes the team's defensive coordinator, and he runs the defense. More Flores, less Tomlin. So he's got a contingency plan of hiring Flores as defensive coordinator if they're stuck with Mike Tomlin as head coach.
Just from a team building perspective, we thought it was fascinating a couple of years ago trying to build Brian Flores' defense, and it brings up the same question. If he were to leave, do you run the same scheme? Do you promote from within? Do you go somewhere else? It's not like they've got good personnel, and it's not perfectly calibrated to Flores, but there's something to the consistency within the scheme, the flexibility that they have with their edge rushers. So it'll be an interesting situation, I think, for Minnesota if they had to replace him, or if they could lock him up and he becomes the next guy who's not going to be getting a head coaching job and is just a top high-end coordinator for years.
Well, it's funny. So you've got a lot of people out there like coveting Brian Flores as defensive coordinator. I can't see why he would leave Minnesota for another defensive coordinator job. I mean, obviously money would be, I don't know how much
unless
Vikings
it's like
are willing
the highest
to pay.
paid DC job.
Unless somebody is willing to change his salary relative to what Minnesota is offering by like an order of magnitude, I don't know why you would leave that situation, because I think it is a good fit for everybody involved. He's got his players that he wants. It's working well. Kevin O'Connell likes him and is clearly a good coach on the other side of the ball as well. The ownership is good. Like, everything is good there. So unless somebody else is willing to offer you like twice the money and you're like, that's just too much money to turn down, I don't know why you would go to Pittsburgh, Dallas, wherever as the defense coordinator. So I think it becomes a conversation of, is he now trapped in this Mike Zimmer world where nobody, like, he's just not going to get a head coaching offer for like 15 years, at which point stay 15 years as the Minnesota Vikings defense coordinator, or is he actually going to get hired away as a head coach going forward with this unique backstory of like he sued the league. He's that's unprecedented. Like, I don't think anybody has had this backstory of where he is like a failed head coach before, sued the NFL in this weird situation. But now, like, if you didn't have any of that as context, you would say, well, obviously this guy's one of the hottest coaching candidates in the NFL right now based off what he's done as a coordinator.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to keep an eye on there. But I think for Minnesota, potentially a huge win if they can keep him there long term.
And look, I think this for every time an owner, it's like the Vikings, I think, would be crazy not to re-sign him. Like, all it's costing you is money that's just the owner's money. And if the owner's willing to spend, why would you not re-up him almost regardless of cost? Especially
in a world where there's so much turnover at coordinator positions. And if you have an offensive head coach, and if you can have consistency, that's the pattern that Kansas City used. You have an offensive head coach and you have a defensive coordinator who, after multiple Super Bowls or a lot of success, should have another opportunity to become a head coach in Spags.
Yeah.
And he either didn't care or didn't get offered.
Right.
And you just have consistency at defensive coordinator while every other team is churning through coordinators every 3 years. That is a huge advantage if the Vikings can take advantage of it.
I'd also be really curious to see. So, number one, how many head coaching interviews does he get this offseason? But I'd be really interested. I mean, we're never going to know, but those conversations would be really interesting because obviously, like the X's and O's point, clearly Flores brings this high-level NFL defense to wherever he's going. But none of the questions should be about that. The entire interview should be, what did you learn the first time around? What went on with you and Tua in Miami? It's all that stuff. It's all tell me how it's going to go different the second time around.
Yeah, it seemed like the player sentiment was
they
hit or
hated,
miss.
Well, yeah, like a lot
Not
of them
everybody
hated
him because a lot of people liked him too. I think it was both ways.
I think a lot of people seem to hate him.
Was Fitzmagic on the bad end or the good end? Did he even mention that?
I don't know.
Anyway. We mentioned Stefon Diggs a little bit earlier on the show, but he's facing strangulation and assault charges. Yeah. We don't have much more information on this other than it was his personal chef. It happened in early December.
And the whole police report is out there.
Like the police report's out there.
It's like a photocopy of it sitting there on the internet.
So their charges at this point, they obviously seem bad.
Yeah.
The actual charges. And I don't know exactly how the NFL handles this. There have been instances where people have not been charged, yet they've still been suspended or put on exempt lists or whatever they do. There's other times where they just kind of like let the process play out, like a Rushy Rice type of deal. They let the process
that's usually their default position, I think, is the league is generally keen to try and not wade into this stuff if they don't have to.
And this particular incident happened within the last month. Like this was an early December incident that was reported mid-December and is now becoming public. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Obviously has huge implications on Diggs, his career, and the playoffs for the Patriots.
It's a crazy situation. So this is a private chef for Stefon Diggs, who apparently they got into some dispute over her pay. Diggs went to her room, entered her room, and then got into a physical altercation with her, according to this police report, allegedly. Struck her and then tried to choke her. But then the police report also says after the fact that Cardi B, Stefon Diggs' girlfriend, like reached out to this woman to ask her not to go to police, not to press charges. Like this whole thing is crazy. What's weird to me is, I mentioned this earlier, that the Patriots put out a statement doing the usual, we're aware, we're gathering information. But in the midst of that, they also said, we've spoken to Stefon Diggs and he has our support. That's, I think, pretty unusual for those types of statements. Usually you just see, we're aware of it.
We'll let the process
We're gathering
play out.
information and we're not going to have any comment at this time. They did all that, except they then threw in, he has our support, which is not usual, I think, for that type of thing. So, yeah, I guess we're in a holding pattern of like, obviously, if these are true allegations, this is awful, and they should throw the book at him. But that element of it is very unusual for the team to publicly back him in some way, shape, or form this early in the process.
Yeah, not much else to add on that other than we'll wait and see how things play out.
Yeah, and obviously the stuff we mentioned before. I mean, we can the morality and legality of it is its own thing, and that we need to see how that plays out. But in terms of, this is very, very big for the Patriots heading into the playoffs. Their number one wide receiver, who'd been playing very well in recent weeks, is suddenly a legal doubt based off this.
Other news here. Northwestern has hired Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. So fired from the Raiders.
Yep.
Off a national championship last year.
Scapegoated.
At Ohio State. Scapegoated, absolutely. So they've not gotten better since Chip's.
No, they haven't. They didn't fix it.
And now he's at Northwestern.
Cool. Great looking stadium, Northwestern.
Explains why he won't get back to me.
Yeah.
He was busy negotiating with Northwestern.
He's just looking at the view there.
It's very nice.
So
Chip's over to Northwestern. We'll connect with him soon. And then the final note for today. Drake Maye is now the MVP favorite over Matthew Stafford.
One primetime game with a bunch of interceptions. Like, change everything. Flip it.
Minus 240 for Drake Maye, plus 195 for Matthew Stafford.
But look, the real people know number 4 there, Justin Herbert. That's where we want to go.
Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert being 3 and 4 is very interesting.
I can't get behind Lawrence because he hasn't. It's not the whole year. It's like half the year. But again,
But neither guy has a good statistical case either.
Justin
Certainly
Herbert,
not compared to the other guys.
Right, but of course they don't, because look at what the offensive line is in front of Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has been working with an offensive line multiple times worse than what Stafford was dealing with on Monday night all year. And he's been playing better than Stafford did on Monday night. Therefore, he's more valuable.
Oh, I hate this whole thing. So as Monday night,
Yikes.
as Monday night was unfolding, these odds are changing.
Yeah.
And the odds...
Based off the play from DJ Humphrey, Stafford's odds are declining for MVP.
Well, I asked the other question. So they're down 2 scores, the Rams. They're down 2 scores. Stafford's not having a good game. Mm-hmm. His MVP odds are tanking.
Unraveling in front of our eyes.
And then Jared Verse blocks a field goal.
Yeah.
And returns it for a touchdown.
So what if he wins?
And Stafford's odds go back up. And it's like...
Yeah.
So I just, like, my PSA to the people is that's just market. It's just the market. It's people putting money into Drake Maye or taking it away from Stafford, whatever it is, right? It's just betting on Maye more that their odds are going to change. It's not a descriptor of what's happened. It's not like, well, Matthew Stafford is now worse than Drake Maye at football.
Right.
Therefore, his odds have to go down. But it's bad for society that we're using live odds trackers in an MVP debate. It just makes it worse because it just doesn't make sense because a blocked field goal is changing the odds. And that's not how you as one of the 50 voters should operate. But then the other...
And everybody else. Like, I would just urge people, forget trying to predict, who the most historically accurate MVP would be if you were trying to guess who it is. Like, go out there and just say, who do you think is the most valuable player in the NFL based off all available context? And, I mean, I kind of created this Justin Herbert narrative off the top of my head, and I haven't really critically analyzed it yet, and I will do that before I actually vote, But I honestly think, like, right now, Herbert has as good a case as anybody. His statistical case is obviously much worse than both Drake Maye and Matthew Stafford, but the reasons for that are not his lack of value. The reasons for that is his offensive line is a wet paper sack. Like, these are relevant pieces of information. So I would just urge people to think about who you actually think is the most valuable player, not who you think is most likely to win it.
The other part I just want to add to this is, I mean, if you're going to use the supporting cast stuff, Dak has a case because they're averaging like 28 points a game. He's doing his part. Sure. They only have 6 or 7, whatever 6 wins that they have, 7 wins because their defense is awful. Mm-hmm. And so it's a similar argument as Justin Herbert.
Yep.
But then the next day, you have Dan Orlovsky, who's buddies with Matthew Stafford, and he's over there like, oh, he's got 10 touchdown passes against teams with 11+ wins, and Drake Maye has 0. So
which, by the way,
this is the problem. I just wrapped up.
By the way, just that as a nice, like we've said before, the Patriots basically have barely played anybody with 10+ wins. Meanwhile, Matthew Stafford is in a division with 2 other 10-win teams. Like, just in terms of opportunity, of course he's got more touchdown passes against 10+ win teams.
And one of those teams is the Niners, whose defense is awful.
Right.
And so then you have this discord. Patriots fans are like, you idiot. Now you didn't care. Then they go find receipts. It's like, you didn't care about strength of schedule for Josh Allen 2 years ago, and they find receipts. And then, like, let's look at like opponents. Well, now they have 6 like opponents. And Maye's got better stats than Stafford against like opponents. And all of this is just disingenuous nonsense because you play 17 games. And now we're trying to say, like, let's look at touchdown passes against certain teams. Now let's look at like opponents. And now you're going to take 6 out of the 17 games and determine it by that because we have to compare like to like across these two. It's insanity.
The Dan Orlovsky thing is actually fascinating because I don't know if this is just a skill you don't get taught if you don't do certain subjects along the way, but like, there's too many people out there who don't ask themselves the why when they find a piece of interesting information. They just go, ooh, that's an interesting piece of information. And the surface level analysis, like the conclusion that is pointing me towards is X, right? So I'm just going to put it out there and say, look at this thing. Nobody goes, okay, but that's an interesting data point. Why would it be that way? Nobody asks that question. And oftentimes when you do ask that question, you're like, oh, actually, it doesn't point you in the way of X. It's because of reason Y over here, right? So I don't know why that happened. Like, this is the problem with the world at the moment, is the basic human has never had more access to information than they've had in the past. There is information everywhere, and nobody asks the why. So you just read a piece of information, it points you in this direction, and you just follow it. You're like, well, it must be right. Nobody asks, like, but why is that? Why does it say that? Like, oh, when you look at that and you either evaluate the source or you go, oh, think of the confounding factors that are weighing in there. And then suddenly you go, well, if I followed that to its conclusion, I'd be an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I just wrapped up teaching my football analytics course for SMWW last night, and I used the phrase, it just came to me yesterday, actionable curiosity. Because I feel like when I attack football, again, I'm imperfect here. When I attack football, I'm trying to find things that are actionable, either properly descriptive or properly predictive, right? And
even if you
but your curiosity gets you there, right? Because it's like, oh, here's this number, but why did we get there? How did we? And do I need to care about this? When you go to vote a week from today or a week from now for the MVP, less than a week, I assume you're going to sit down and say, what are the numbers that I'm going to look at, the data that I'm going to look at, has to be good. Like it has to be the right descriptive metrics. And you might say, I care about EPA and I care about PFF and I care about, maybe I do care about touchdown to interception ratio. Maybe I don't. Find the things that actually are the proper descriptor of how well players have played and what value they've added to their team. But you're in a disingenuous world if you just pull this tiny sample size of number, because I see numbers floating around all over the place to tell whatever story you want. And it's all disingenuous. I mean, look, to try to sway people one way or the other.
I mean, I'm broadening this way beyond MVP now, but just in this world now, any piece of information you are using to make an argument, you should be asking yourself: is this legitimately making the argument that I'm trying to make, or is this simply a data point that on its surface supports that, but that's not the reason it is that way, right? Like, and again, it's a good point. You're imperfect. Even if you do things this way, I mean, I constructed what I thought was a pretty sound, logical case that Tom Brady was toast in 2014, and he had 10 more years of high-level play, right? So even if you do it this way, you're not going to be right 100% of the time, but you're definitely going to be right more often than the people who just see data point, parrot data point, right? That's dumb. That is basic. You're missing a level of critical thinking. Like, you are, by definition, less smart than the people that are actually thinking about the data they're putting out into the world when they're trying to make points, right? That's all I'm asking for people to do is, if you see a data point and you want to use that data point to back up a preconceived notion you already have in your head, right? At least ask yourself if that is legitimate or not. And sometimes it will be. And sometimes the data point will absolutely be the reason matches what you want to put out there. But sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's really easy to see when it isn't.
I say the same thing about, like, the Brady example is, okay, you could easily in hindsight say, well, I was wrong. Okay, but was your process actually wrong? Right. Or was Brady, because you may have used data that said everything that is happening in Brady's career, every other time that we've seen this, here's what the result has been. And then Brady just became the 1% outlier. Right. So where you weren't wrong in your analysis, the result certainly was wrong. But it also, the other confounding factors were, like, he was coming off bad receivers and this and that. But maybe the process was perfectly sound. I talk about this in draft scouting all the time. Like, you don't have to go back and say that you were wrong because you missed on a player. Right. And so, anyway,
no, but
I'm going down all these rabbit holes and everything.
I mean, I think with hindsight, the thing that you would say with that one specifically, the Brady thing, is, are you looking to try and find it? Like, the problem with that is Brady had reached the age at that point, right, where traditionally quarterbacks had started to decline in and around that area, right? So the second you see a sign of decline, you're like, that's it. Here it is. I'm going to be first. And that's the mistake, right? That's the original sin with that. It's like trying to find signs of Brady's decline, as opposed to, we know all about variance. We know all about small sample sizes. Let's just let it play out, right? And let's write the Brady's eulogy once it's clear it's actually here, as opposed to the first possible sign where you can reasonably construct an argument that it's here. That, I think, with hindsight, so I think my process of looking through the data and saying, does this support decline, yes or no? I think all that part was fine. The flaw was going looking for it in the first place when, there might not have been a reason to.
Just because the chat mentioned it, you're going to kill me.
Sweet.
The other stuff I saw floating around, Christian McCaffrey, the Sunday Night Football, Christian McCaffrey, number 16 running back by PFF.
Yeah.
And I saw that floating around, and it just popped up in the chat. I don't need to defend them, but that's not a tough one there.
What?
So McCaffrey, it's an interesting dynamic there too. What's the context around that? McCaffrey has had an extremely high volume season as a runner.
Yeah.
And he's been unbelievable as a pass catcher. So he's 16th by PFF grades or whatever they were on Sunday Night Football.
I would like to know what his PFF WAR is. I don't.
So I
don't like PFF running grades.
First off,
ever.
Again, if I was PFF, I would default more to something WAR related, which is
it's the one position
volume related.
It's the one position where volume is actually
he's probably
virtue. Top.
Right? PFF has better data than their grades.
Yes,
that's the thing. They have better data than their grades to define McCaffrey's
running back specific
value.
Yeah.
But what I would say about McCaffrey, whether you use PFF's rushing grades, non-PFF rushing yards over expectation, McCaffrey's low. He's tied for 39th in yards per carry this year.
Sure.
At 3.9, right? So when people are like, oh, Chris McCaffrey's 16th, are you idiots? Again, I don't need to defend them. I don't care. But it's the same idea though. You can ask the next question. He is 40th. He's 39th in yards per carry.
Right. It's not the only
just in
data
yards
point.
per carry.
Yeah.
Right? Because high volume, he's actually been a low efficiency runner, and he's been the best receiving back again in the NFL.
Right. It's not the only data
So he's
point
the number
that says
39 in yards per carry. He's the best receiver. Where does that land? Oh, halfway. 16th's not bad, But you're right. I wouldn't use the rushing grades because it kills the high volume.
Yeah.
It kills high volume.
And running back, I think, is the one position where there is virtue just in volume. There's actually some merit and power to a guy who is running the ball 35 times
the grading
a game.
system is a per-play system, which is going to hurt. It's going to hurt because we know the strengths and weaknesses of the system. It's going to hurt a defensive tackle or a defensive end that plays 1,000 snaps because per play it's harder to be efficient on 1,000 versus 500. But you're allowed to take the next step and dig deeper and
nailed it.
Figure it out.
According to Benjamin Stockwell, the gift supplier
I bet he's fifth.
of my Welsh rugby jersey that I'm currently wearing, Christian McCaffrey is second to Bijan Robinson in PFF WAR. So PFF WAR is a better data point for running backs than PFF grades because they never fixed them the way we wanted them to back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'd question it and say, why is this guy averaging 3.9 per carry and he's second? But it's the receiving value, obviously, there. Anyway, we went off the rails. It's all my fault.
By the way, I still think, the reason I think that the CMC came up, somebody mentioned Myles Garrett in the chat for MVP, I don't think a non-quarterback can win MVP anymore. I think if you want to focus on value, whatever that amorphous, nebulous concept is, ill-defined as it is at the NFL level, the quarterback is the most valuable player in basically every possible scenario. The only way I can see a non-quarterback winning MVP in any given year is basically no quarterback can have a good year, and somebody has to do something genuinely absurd, like Myles Garrett in breaking the sack record, breaking a rushing record, breaking Calvin Johnson's receiving record.
You need something like Adrian Peterson in the year that he won MVP, averaging a higher yards per carry
than his quarterback
in yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have that extreme, when it's we know the pass game is more valuable, but if your running back is more efficient than your pass game, that's something special.
Yeah.
Right. And then you start, adding in these confounding factors in the whole thing.
Right.
So, drag it out.
And remember, to be clear, I hate that. I don't like that MVP exists and we're trapped in this world of value. What is value worth? Because it's 50 guys different. It's not defined. It's 50 people's random opinion of what's valuable and what isn't. And that's how you get to, well, I think maybe Justin Herbert, what he's doing in front of a garbage or behind a garbage offensive line is more valuable than what a guy is doing with a better offensive line with more statistical production. And there really is no answer to that. Like, we can all debate it, and someone will pull out EPA and someone else will pull out an adjustment for offensive line. And we can get really granular in a way we couldn't 25 years ago. But it's still not definitive. It's still just your opinion versus my opinion. Here's our data that we're throwing at each other. Like,
we're all going to define value differently.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think it's much easier to just be like, do it in a different way.
I've seen people bring up Brock Purdy as MVP. And so the positive there, it's like, well, they're 7. They're going to, if they win this last game and get the number 1 seed, well, Brock Purdy came back and led them to the number 1 seed with clearly the best efficiency metrics, no matter which way you slice it. QBR, EPA, be up there in passer rating. He's up there in everything. Mm-hmm. But he missed half the season. So if you're talking value, it's like, yes.
And his backup looked really good, too.
Right. So the guy that replaced him looked good and put up good numbers. Not as good, but good. Then the value that he provided for 8 games was 0.
Right.
While he wasn't there. And you have to factor that in. I think the year that Brady missed 4 games, I thought he had an MVP case against Matt Ryan, but he still missed 4 games in 2016.
If you miss like a serious percentage of the season, I find it really difficult to give a guy like that MVP.
But then you have people who are like, look how valuable Peyton Manning was when he was hurt. And it's like, give him the award by not playing. It's like, we're all defining value in a different way. You can't say like Mahomes is valuable because Olajuwon sucks.
Yeah, that's the problem with it, in my opinion, is that its sole focus is on that word valuable, and that gets defined in 50
differently
50 different ways
by everybody.
Yeah,
I define it as what you've brought to your team to add toward winning.
Yes,
and then relative to what your teammates have brought too, and that's where I think that's where it gets lost a little bit.
Relative to teammates, but also the thing. So I think there's a bunch of people more open to different interpretations of value than have ever been in the past. The one area, though, where it's never hasn't changed yet, and I don't think is headed in that direction, is guys without a lot of wins to their name. Because like your thing is not inconsistent with an idea that a guy could win MVP with a 6-win season, right? What if with the value that you're providing to winning football games relative to like the next guy up or whatever is insane? And yet that was still only good enough to get you 6 wins because everybody around you is trash. Like, what if you're on the worst roster in the NFL? Let's say next year, right? The worst team in football, the Raiders. Let's say the Raiders draft a quarterback, number 1 overall. That quarterback plays out of his freaking mind for the entire season, but the rest of the team is still absolute trash, top to bottom. And the Raiders go from a 2-win football team to a 6-win football team. And that rookie plays like the best football of anybody in the NFL. That guy has no shot of winning MVP in the current setup, and yet arguably could be.
Yeah, and yet this whole thing comes down to, did you watch Monday Night Football? And it's a horse race, and if you're first, you're here, and you're second, you're here, and there's no difference in you're just first or second. Like going into that game, you could make the case that Stafford was going into the weekend. Stafford was 5 rungs ahead of Maye. Let's say he's like, let's use length. He's 10 lengths ahead of Maye. Furlongs. And then Maye gets closer because he was 19 of 21 with 5 touchdowns.
But whatever about that, right? Whatever about the throws that Drake Maye or Matthew Stafford is making, moving the horses, right? The idea that Jared Verse makes a play on special teams and Stafford's
and then the furlongs are close. Yeah, right. Stafford moves.
Stafford's horse jumps forward because of Jared Verse.
Because I asked the question.
That's funny.
I asked the question in real time. I'm like, does that move? Like his odds are tanking. Yeah. They're tanking. They're down 2 scores. Well, now they're only down 1 score. And there's a lot of time left in the game. His odds are better. And the fact that as a society, that's what we're left with in this MVP debate. That's bad for everybody. Bad for everybody.
That's why focusing on the wins thing is silly. Because if you do that, you end up in a situation where Jared Verse hops a line and makes a play on special teams, and
we're done.
Matthew Stafford becomes more likely to win MVP because of that. Like, that's stupid. That's ridiculous.
We still have so much to do on this show. This is the longest show in history, but it's fun. It is worth a discussion. MVP. We'll talk about it next week. You have a vote.
Yeah. which I can't publicly put out there, by the way. That was part of the serious.
We won't.
Serious
I mean,
rules.
we're
not.
We've got some insight.
There's like a month
from you.
We
have insight from
publicly.
you.
So this is just a PSA. I will not be revealing my ballots for All-Pro, MVP, et cetera, because I can't for a month.
Should I unveil?
But then they put them out. Then they will drop them, unbeknownst to all of us, and be like, "Look what this idiot did."
Yeah.
So that'll be in a month's time.
Look at Sam and Teddy Bruschi and how they voted.
Yeah.
Hate them. I hope you're on an island again this year.
Oh, I'm sure it will be somewhere. I mean, the Justin Herbert thing has got a pretty good chance of putting me there.
We're rolling like 3 weeks of Wednesday shows into one here. Quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates. So they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. But when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get you back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can start it today at Root.com. And today, we're providing roadside assistance for the Green Bay Packers as they head into the playoffs, as the 7 seed, as they tend to do. How can we provide this roadside assistance for the reeling Green Bay Packers?
The reeling, yeah. It's tough because, I mean, losing Micah Parsons, I think, just has such a huge impact on that defense. And there's no fixing that. We've seen what Robert Saleh is doing in San Francisco. You can get creative to try and offset a relative lack of talent on the defense in terms of personnel. But there's limits to that. Like, eventually you run into people that are just good, and now you've got to man up, and you struggle. Like, the Packers can get more creative on defense and can try and create some pressure with smoke and mirrors and all that kind of stuff. But eventually you're going to need Rashawn Gary to make a play. You're going to need Lucas Van Ness to man up. Like, these are the guys that need to step up.
It has circled back to feeling like it did before the trade, which, remember, last year they only lost, 6 games, and they were all to the 3 best teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
It was the Vikings, the Lions, and the Rams, the 3 other really good teams. Was that
the Rams or the Eagles?
The Eagles, I'm sorry.
Yeah, which was like one play, and Love got hurt in the game, and it was in Brazil. But yes,
yeah, but in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
To the Eagles, right? So they lost to the 3 best teams in the NFC last year, and then but when they had Parsons, it felt like, okay, now they can compete with anyone. So I don't have great answers here, other than they've been leaning on variance all year. 3rd downs, Jordan Love, big plays. He's got the high EPA per play. I think he's got the big-time throws. Lean into it. I saw some Packers fans saying, this is it. Forget the run game. You know, there's the McVay, Shanahan, Kubiak, LaFleur, like all of that tree very rarely gets into pass-happy mode, right? It's the run game's tied to the pass game and play action and the whole deal. But are the Packers in like increase variance time?
Yeah,
which is even more ball in Jordan Love's hands. Get the ball to Christian Watson, and just try to create big plays.
You can do that, and then the thing on defense, the one thing they can do to try and offset the Micah Parsons loss is just blitz. They can up the blitz rate. They can attack more, and okay, that's going to change things, and that's going to make you vulnerable in the back end and stuff. But like, that's the way of manufacturing pressure if you don't have the horses up front. Green Bay for this season has been one of the lowest blitz rate teams in the NFL, and that makes sense when you got Micah Parsons. Like, when that guy can go out there and individually destroy an offensive line and create pressure for other people, why would you blitz? But you don't have him anymore, right? And the other teams down the bottom of the blitz rate table are either teams like the Rams and the Texans, who have, you know, insanely good front fours that don't need to blitz because they can get pressure with just those guys, or terrible pass rushes, right? Who just seem to have embraced the fact that we suck. We have nobody who can rush the passer.
We can't get pressure anyway.
It doesn't matter if we're rushing with 4 or 5 or 6. Nobody's getting pressure anyway, so what the hell? Let's just play coverage. So Green Bay have gone from the first one of those to the second one, I think, and therefore the solution should be to up the blitz rate.
That just sounds like more aggression on both sides of the ball. Blitz, high variance, throw the ball, let Jordan Love carry you through the playoffs. There we go. Root Insurance. Go check it out. Root.com.
According to
roadside assistance for the Green Bay Packers.
According to NGS, by the way, Brian Flores' Vikings team has a blitz rate that's almost 10 percentage points higher than anybody else's.
They over 50 by their numbers?
No, by their numbers, they're 46.8.
Okay.
But
everybody's got different blitz rules, too. I mean,
yeah. But the next highest team is 37.2.
Wow. That sounds right. Feel that with Flores. We're back with Shouty Shows as well. Let's get to some Shouty Shows here.
I've thought about it very deeply.
I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard.
I trust the backup quarterback more than I do Dak.
This is why Skip Bayless is the master of the Shouty Show segment.
I can't do it anymore. It is year 6.
It's just a never-ending arms race of idiocy between loud, obnoxious people. We are the antidote to that.
All right, let's get right into it, starting with Rich Eisen.
Here's what I want to say on this front with the Kansas City Chiefs not making the playoffs, first time in the Mahomes era. You're going to miss them. You're going to miss the Kansas City Chiefs when the AFC playoffs are hitting. You're going to miss the buzz. You're going to miss the pizzazz. You're going to miss Mahomes versus fill in the blank. You're going to miss Mahomes versus fill in the blank with no time left. You're going to miss something. The AFC playoffs will have less juice to it without the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And one day, all you Chiefs fatiguers out there, all you Chiefs fatiguers out there will admit it. You might have to go higher register. League's more fun when the Chiefs are good.
League's more fun when the Chiefs are good, per Rich Eisen.
Yeah, I don't believe in that as an idea that there's any specific team that makes the league better or worse when they're good. I think the teams are who they are. It's irrelevant to me which ones are good, which are not. I will say the one area where I think he's right is the playoffs are worse without Patrick Mahomes in them. Like the idea that critical down late in the AFC Championship game, I mean, whoever it is now, it's not going to be Mahomes, and we know he's capable of magic, right? So that we're missing. Just the fact that the Chiefs aren't there is, I don't think that makes it any worse. It's in a weird spot. Generally, I don't like dynastic teams, unless they're mine, obviously. But like, I hated the Patriots for like 20 years because this was just miserable. It's like a machine that just they're there every year. You can't get by them. It's obnoxious. That was just awful. I don't feel that way about the Chiefs for some reason, and I don't know why. I've been sort of analyzing that internally, and I haven't come up with an answer. I don't feel the same way. I don't have the same level of dislike towards this dynastic Chiefs team that I had towards the Patriots or other dynasties.
It's only been
past.
5 or 6 years.
No, I don't think it's a time thing. I hated the Patriots from like almost as soon as they were that machine.
Patriots were lovable for a year, by the way.
No, they weren't.
2001, they were lovable.
Nobody wanted them to beat the Rams that year. Nobody.
They were the lovable
The Rams were the greatest show on turf. They were fun. And
they
the
were
Patriots
America's
came along
team.
and ruined
Go back. You got to go back in time. They were America's team. They came out as a team. They didn't do individual intros.
The only people that bought into that were New England people. Everyone else hated them.
They were America's team for a year.
So that was the thing. Like the Rams had the rare ability of being like the favorite juggernaut, and everyone still loved them.
The Rams were going to be the dynasty. To be honest, they were going to win 2 out of 3 years, and
that didn't happen.
Kurt Warner in the turf.
Yeah, I don't have any reason. I think most people hate the Chiefs the same way they hated the Patriots, the same way they hate every dynastic juggernaut, and therefore are happy they're not in the playoffs this year. I don't feel that way, but I don't feel it so much that I'm on Rich Eisen's side of thinking, well, I wish they were there. Like I'm not missing them except for the fact that Mahomes isn't in the postseason.
The part that I'm interested in is, like you miss a little like Mahomes, Allen 6 or whatever the number. You miss some of that history maybe. But I think what's interesting is, remember my take a few years ago before the Chiefs started winning all the time? Like when the Patriots dynasty ended, first off, people were dancing on their grave. People love that. So I think the general society loves moving on from the dynasty and into the unknown, right?
Right.
I did think that we were going to go into the world of the unknown where all of the elite quarterbacks were retiring or getting older. And then, okay, what's the next? What do the 2020s look like? And then the Chiefs took over, and they're in the AFC Championship and Super Bowl every single year. And so you lose that. So to me, that the unknown is fun. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I've been saying it all year. I like this playoff field. I think this is looking like a really fun, exciting playoff season. I don't care that the Chiefs aren't there. Maybe it would. I think there's going to be some plays that Mahomes would have made in the postseason because he always does, and we're not going to see those, and that's sad. But I don't think the playoffs are any worse because the Chiefs aren't in them.
So that was Rich Eisen. Kind of agree, kind of disagree, all at the same time. Let's go to Dan Orlovsky.
Do we think that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have enough to go on a Super Bowl run?
Can we stop asking this question?
No.
The answer is yes.
No.
I love Josh. I've championed Josh. We have to stop building in excuses for him.
No excuses for Josh Allen.
No excuses. I mean, it's not an excuse. Well, it's this is the problem, is the expectations are now, because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are not in the playoffs, Josh Allen therefore has to win a Super Bowl this year. It's like, but other teams are in the playoffs who are better than the Chiefs. That's why the Chiefs aren't in the playoffs this year. Like, the assignment didn't get any easier for Josh Allen and the Bills just because the Chiefs aren't there. Like, by definition, this is still a really good playoff field. Everyone's still, like, look at, that's the thing. It's like, everyone assumes his task is easier this year, and I don't think it is.
I would actually argue that Allen's task on his side of the ball has a chance to be much more difficult if he runs into the Texans or the Broncos.
Right.
Texans already gave him fits
Yeah.
on that Thursday night game on his side of the ball because they're, like we talked about, they're equipped. Like, if they ran into Spags this year
right.
in the playoffs, like, again, they're equipped to take on that defense. You don't run into Mahomes, so it's harder to win or whatever. But on Josh Allen's side of the ball,
yeah.
it's probably more of a challenge.
There are years
if they face the Chargers defense, the Broncos defense, or the Texans defense, it's probably a worse fit than facing the Chiefs.
There are years where it is absolutely possible that the stars just sort of align for you and all of the good teams get taken out before you play them, and you can just sort of stumble your way through a pathway that's actually very easy. And if you don't win at the end of that, I could agree that that's a failure or a disappointment. This is not what's happening to the Bills. Like, the path hasn't opened up in front of them for them to go through a series of cakewalk teams and win a Super Bowl off the back of it just because the Chiefs aren't in the playoffs. Like, the Bills are still going to have to do this, and actually harder this year because they're on the road. They're not going to get home field advantage. Like, they are going to have to do this on the road against teams that are arguably as good, if not better, than some of these Chief teams that have knocked them out. Like, this is not the easy assignment that people are making it out to be for Josh Allen.
The one other thing I saw floating around was some sort of like, hey, we make excuses for this quarterback and not for that quarterback. And golden age of everyone has a voice, and it's easy. Social media is big and wide, and if you want to find, like, literally every single quarterback is criticized when they probably shouldn't be and praised probably when they shouldn't be. All of them. Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy, all of them. J.J. McCarthy. Remember, Vikings fans like, nobody takes the heat that J.J. McCarthy, like in 4 games, nobody's taken the heat that J.J. McCarthy has taken? Nobody? Have you been under a rock for the last decade of social media discourse when it comes to quarterbacks? They're all criticized and they're all praised.
Yeah.
Too much on both ends. Anyway.
It's also not an excuse, by the way, for him to just say, like, he's probably not winning a Super Bowl this year on the basis that every one of the quarterbacks going into the playoffs is probably not winning this year.
Yeah, that's right. Every team's a fraud, including the
right.
Bills.
So, like, in that situation, like, I'm not making excuses for Josh Allen saying he's got a hard road and he's probably not going to win a Super Bowl this year on the basis that that's the stand. Like, that should be your default assumption for everybody.
We got Stephen A. coming up here. Let's go.
Okay. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But the Raiders are so awful right now, the stench has circulated throughout the country. Every football city recognizes how awful they have been. Put Tom Brady in charge, Mark Davis, just hand over the whole, I don't care about him being just a part owner. Hand over football operations to Tom Brady, okay? Not that you can, because he's not going to leave the job that he's got at Fox, paying him over $37 million to run the damn Raiders. He ain't stupid at all. But ask him anyway. Figure out something, because you need all the help you can get. The Raiders are awful. And because they're awful, okay, as a result.
If someone is familiar with being overpaid to do TV, it'd be Stephen A.
My whole world on Stephen, my whole outlook now on Stephen A has been changed since listening to that Max Kellerman analysis of what he is.
He's the everyman.
It's so fascinating.
Everyman with some emphasis.
This is perfect. Like, this is exactly what a drunk guy in a bar would say, right? Which is, put him in charge of the team.
Just give it to Tom.
Even down to, I know
Tom.
you can't, but ask him anyway. Figure it out.
Let him coach, too. Let him call plays.
It's perfect because most people are going to agree with it, even though it's like literally within its own statement, it's definitionally stupid. He's saying this cannot happen, but they should find a way of making it happen anyway. It's like, that's it. That's 100%.
I mean, it could happen. It could basically happen if they wanted to.
Not really.
My first question is why?
I mean, it can't.
What?
You can't run the team and be a commentator at the same time. You can't do it.
Actionable curiosity. I come back to that. My first question is, has this worked before? Is there a one-to-one correlation between the GOAT player and the GOAT front office executive? And you don't have to go too far to Michael Jordan and the Wizards.
John Elway.
You don't have to go too far to...
not GOAT, but, really good.
Wayne Gretzky. Phoenix Coyotes. Like, the GOATs in other sports aren't necessarily the best coaches or executives. Now, sometimes, like Ozzie Newsome had a really good career, and he was good at both. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, Howie Roseman never played, and he's the best GM in the NFL right now.
We also, by the way...
There's no correlation between being a great player and being great in the broadcast booth or as an executive.
We just got out of an offseason where all of the stories were talking about how Tom Brady was starting to...
And that's the second part of it.
Put in his 2 cents worth and look at all the good things that are happening. Like, what if he's already been doing this and this is the results?
Yes.
What if he's actually garbage at this and we've already seen the results of it and all you're asking him to do is take on even more input into the terrible situation?
If the stories are true that they were debating Sam Darnold and Geno Smith.
Right.
Sam Darnold, the free agent.
And
Geno
Tom Brady
Smith,
is like, you know what? I think Geno's the guy.
That was if the stories are true, that was where Brady leaned.
Right.
So far, that looks like a miss. Other people I talked to at the Raiders who were like, yeah, Tom's involved. He's a genius. He knows football so well, which is fine. But there's also it's kind of like Bill Belichick, the executive, did not look nearly as good without having Tom Brady, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, the executive, does not have Tom Brady, the quarterback.
I mean, maybe that's the next logical.
Now, if he inserted himself as quarterback, got himself some good playmakers, then maybe.
Well, that's Stephen A's
take. Out of
take.
Retirement.
Maybe that's Stephen A's take next year. Is I know he's running the team now. Why not make him owner, GM, coach, and player? That's never happened before.
Imagine if he looked at 44-year-old Rivers and
even
it's like,
Curly Lambeau never did that. I don't think. Like, what if he's all of them?
I'm coming back at 48. Forget this embarrassment that is Phillip Rivers at 44.
Yeah.
Completing a few passes and everybody's praising him. I'm going to do this at 48 and take the Raiders in the best division in football and just win it.
While also being the GM and head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in.
There we go.
I'd watch it.
I mean, just, again, high level, there's no evidence that the best players make the best executives, decision makers, general managers.
It's such a perfect distillation of what Stephen A. Smith
we're,
is now. Let's just take.
We're attacking this.
Let's take what's an obviously stupid idea that a guy in a bar would say, and let's just put it out there as my take on television, because most people will probably think that way, because most people don't really think about these things critically. They just like, what? I mean, the Raiders suck. Tom Brady's an owner. Why not put Tom Brady in charge? That's the level of analysis most people are doing on this when you're thinking about it for 6 seconds. And then once you think about it beyond 6 seconds, you reach the point that he reached in his own thought, which is, actually, I know this can't happen, but just do it anyway.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Well
this is why he exists, because he takes this and puts it out there.
Worth
and people
every penny.
Fall for it.
Worth every penny. Let's go Mike Francesa with the Jets.
And this won't get any better. It won't. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and I could sit here and scream about how embarrassing it is, and it's utterly reeking of embarrassment and lack of pride and lack of competitiveness and all the things that you think about that you want your football team to display, that it makes you want to throw up. But you know what? It's the holidays. I'm not going to do that. That's enough energy. The bottom line Do I have any faith that next year will be better under Aaron Glenn? Absolutely not. I think he's going to be back. I don't think there's any question. But do I think it's going to make a difference? Absolutely not. He doesn't have an idea what he's doing. Not an idea.
He sounds like he's doing that like about half an hour after Christmas dinner. You know, you just you just eat 8 pounds of food and you're like, I'm going to sleep.
Turkey too, like tryptophan's hitting
right
on him. Now if he had not mentioned the name Aaron Glenn, the funny thing is that could have been from any year back to like the Rich Kotite era, and
except with less volume, like sounding more.
It would have been loud, yeah. When he was saying that back in '93 or whatever, it was louder.
Yeah,
it was louder.
It's like I've got no interest in being the bearer of bad news. Really, that's kind of what most of your career has been.
It is tough because we try to appeal to every fan base, all 32 and everything, and the number of fan bases when you try to bring, good analysis to the table. For instance, the Jets have a lot of draft picks over the next 2 years. They have sacrificed a little bit of pride this year, a little bit of competitiveness, not having Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner on that defense, right? They've sacrificed some of that to build for the future, which is the right move. So you sacrifice a little bit of you get the worst pass defense in history, right? Fifth worst, as we said earlier, for the future. But then you have this part of the fan base is like, they're going to miss on the picks anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so beat up. I'm so hurt. We just had 3 picks 2 years ago, and look, we're in this mess. So you still have that. Even though they're doing the right things for the future, you still have this, they just got smoked by the Patriots. It's never going to get better.
Well, it's the problem.
Even though they're set up better than any team when it comes to draft capital.
I mean, that's the problem with the approach of sort of taking a step backwards to go 2 steps forward is if you're doing that on a team that's been terrible for a long time, like there's no faith that you're ever going to take the 2 steps forward. So all they can see is, well, here's another step backwards. Why should I trust you that you're going to find the 2 steps forward at any point? Because you haven't yet. That part's relatable where why would they expect them to get this right off the back of this?
And I guess let's throw in this bonus one. Can we do this?
Bonus
Bills. No, don't do it. It's outdated. It's too late.
Oh, okay.
No bonuses. Talked enough about the Bills and Orlovsky.
No bonus for you.
That's it for Shouty Shows. It's good. It's good to be back on a Wednesday. We had a lot to unpack here. We had a lot to rant. I got a question for you though, because you didn't get to, I did the Monday night instant reaction by myself, which was fun. But I guess just rambled for 20 minutes. Before you know it, it's like, hey, wow, it's 20 minutes.
Get out of here.
I might. Yeah. And now that I have the login, I might go live at any time.
I'll do it. And you want to just start, we just have random Steve shows. Yeah.
I
all
will.
By yourself talking.
I'm going to go and do my monologues.
Fine.
I might talk about intellectual curiosity and all these different things. Who knows? You never know what I'm going to talk about.
You never know what you're going to ramble about.
But I wanted to know your thoughts because people asked me, I don't know if you listen to me, people asked me to rant as you would.
Now, once I realized that I was going to be redundant here, I just went to bed because I had to get up and drive for
I don't blame you.
the day.
I wouldn't have listened to me. Yeah. People asked me to rant about the slow motion replay of the Puka Nacua no catch. And I made the point on social media that even though the ball floated for the split second, I still think he had control the whole time. And I was being a little facetious with the whole thing. But I ranted in your stead for the slow motion replay that took one of the coolest looking one-handed catches that was a no catch and just took it away from him.
Yeah, I think because a defender kind of had part of his arm at the time and was like pulling away at it at the same time where the ball started to float in the midair, I think you can make the argument that one is one where he did actually lose control briefly in the middle. But it's definitely in the world of like, does replay change your opinion of that play?
Yeah.
Like I think the easiest solution to all this stuff is there should be a limit to how slow you can make the tape. Unless you're looking for things like black or white, did his foot hit a blade of green grass in order to establish, him being in, right? That's something you actually need to slow down frame by frame, zoom in, all that kind of stuff, right? Because it's just, did it hit, yes or no? It's simple. I think if you're slowing down stuff that's a fluid concept, like is he in control of this or not? Well, that changes depending on whether you're looking at full speed where the ball never really loses possession, or suddenly we slow it down, zoom in, you're like, oh, look, it's moving.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but does that mean just because it's moving doesn't mean he's not in control of it? Like, how many times are you going about your day where stuff is moving in your possession? Like, you just flip your phone from like one hand to the other. Like that left both of my hands for a brief second.
Yeah,
right?
control.
Was I ever not in control of it?
Oh man,
No.
my timeline was blown. The thing blew up. People were talking about juggling and the whole thing. I don't know. It was a fun catch though, or no catch.
Yeah,
almost
but this
catch.
one I think is. I wouldn't. When I'm making.
I didn't really think it was a catch, but it was.
When I'm making that
amazing.
argument, I wouldn't use this play to make it.
I understand. I guess we're going to go members only here for a little bit with a little members only Q&A. So appreciate everybody who's not a member. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. right here, previewing all the Week 18 action.
Nice.
Yeah. We can come back. Let's come back right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll fill 20 seconds.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of the actual mechanics of getting to members only. We're all just figuring it out.
Just scratching the surface of professionalism.
So we continue this
on a
for
weekly basis.
For members only, a little Q&A, maybe a college football preview. Who knows?
Yeah. So we are about to hit a members only version of this, and then we'll have a little Q&A and